Chapter 1307. The ancient Orchid City was a small city located in the southwest of the central region. Although this place was not under the control of any faction, due to the existence of a transportation array, the ancient Orchid City had become the most popular city in this area. Just the daily flow of customers was comparable to some of the big cities in the central region. One could imagine how prosperous the city was. At this very moment, in the middle of the ancient Orchid City, Xiao Yan and the others revealed curious expressions as they sized up their surroundings. A long while later, they finally walked toward a street under the disdainful gazes of the people around them. The passers-by on both sides of the street looked at the few curious young people with mocking expressions on their faces. The gazes they used to look at them were as though they were looking at a group of country bumpkins. Although they had seen quite a number of young people who had just arrived, there would always be people who would mock and ridicule them. In fact, there would also be quite a few people who would find trouble with them. "I say, little brats, is this your first time in the central region?" Just as Xiao Yan and the rest were slowly walking towards the street, a few tall middle-aged burly men walked over from the side. These men had already noticed the presence of Xiao Yan and the rest the moment they appeared. Based on their many years of experience, they could naturally tell that this was the first time these youths had come to the central region. When the powerful cry from the strong man's mouth sounded, some of the people around who were more familiar with him immediately turned their gazes to Xiao Yan's group. Their gazes immediately swept between the two of them. When they saw the frail bodies of Xiao Yan's group, they could not help but shake their heads in pity. These few strong men may not be considered big shots, but they could be considered to have few opponents within the ancient Orchid City. Usually, they would specially deal with some newcomers who had just arrived and snatch benefits from their hands. This was especially the case for young people like Xiao Yan's group. Once they were targeted by them, it was likely that it would be very difficult for them to leave the ancient Orchid City peacefully without paying a price. When the burly men saw Xiao Yan and the rest stop in front of them, a mocking expression involuntarily flashed across their eyes. Subsequently, a smug smile appeared on the corners of their mouths as they took a step forward, appearing even more arrogant and willful. "Is something the matter?" The expressions of Xiao Yan's group did not change when they sensed the gazes of these few strong men that contained ill intent being shot over. At the same time as they turned around, an indifferent voice was also softly spat out from Xiao Yan's mouth. When they saw the manner of Xiao Yan's group, the expressions on the burly men's faces were involuntarily stunned. Soon after, it turned into a cold smile. It was not as though they had never seen such arrogant newcomers in the past. Unfortunately, this kind of person did not have a good time in their hands. "I say, kid, this is the central region, not the hometown of country bumpkins like you. Since you've come to my ancient Orchid City, you have to follow the rules here. Since you're new here, each person will have to pay 500 spirit stones as a toll." The leader of the few burly men walked up to Xiao Yan's group with his head held high. With a cold expression, he looked at the thin body of Xiao Yan in front of him and spoke in a rather rude and unreasonable tone. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyelids drooped slightly as the expression on his face gradually turned indifferent. His gaze swept across the surrounding crowd. Among them, there were quite a number of people who came here with them. Moreover, those people's cultivations were generally above King Yuan. Moreover, all of them had fierce expressions. At a glance, one could tell that they were the kind of people who were ruthless. Soon after, Xiao Yan's gaze once again returned to the burly man in front of him as he slowly said, "All right, then please collect their toll first." While saying this, Xiao Yan's gaze swept over once again. The burly man in front of him could not help but be startled by this. His gaze swept the surroundings as he coldly snorted and said, "Kid, among these people, only you guys are new here. You should. Is it because you're so familiar with their faces, or is it because of their strength?" Before the words from the burly man's mouth sounded, Xiao Yan interrupted him with a single sentence. At the same time that his ice-cold gaze landed on the burly man's body, a frightening aura that caused the expressions of most people present to change abruptly spread out from within Xiao Yan's body. The powerful pressure actually suppressed the few burly men in front of him until they knelt on the ground. The burly men, who were originally much taller than Xiao Yan, could only uncontrollably submit at this moment. Origin King. Soon after, cries of disbelief rang out in the square. Countless gazes of shock also landed on Xiao Yan's body. It was not that they had never seen an Origin King before, but such a young Origin King was similarly in existence that was as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns even in the central region. From what they knew, Such a young Origin King expert could only be nurtured by those peak factions in the central region. Could it be that the young man before them was a young disciple of one of those factions? Only when they thought of this did the people present let out a sigh of relief. If that was the case, it would still make sense. If the group of people before them really came from the borders of the continent, the cultivation talent of this young man was a little too terrifying. Now, do you still want spiritual stones? Ignoring the shocked gazes in the surroundings, Xiao Yan looked indifferently at the middle-aged man who was half kneeling on the ground in front of him and slowly spoke. When the latter heard this, his heart was filled with bitterness. Soon after, he hurriedly and respectfully apologized. If one often walked by the river, how could one's shoes not get wet? Today, his group had finally met with an iron plate. In the past, their methods had never failed, but this time, they just had to meet Xiao Yan's group. This could be considered as a wake-up call for them. If he really was a disciple of some large faction, these fellows might not necessarily still be alive and kneeling here. After dealing with the trouble before them, Xiao Yan's group did not pay any more attention to them and slowly walked in the direction they had chosen earlier. Afterwards, the crowd of onlookers gradually dispersed. At the same time, on a certain tall building in the city, two figures, one old and one young, were looking in the direction Xiao Yan's group had left. In particular, when their gazes landed on Lian, greed could not help but appear in the depths of their eyes. It has been many years since we last met. That child has grown up. The old man looked at the pretty Lian and could not help but lick his lips. Now, he was completely sure that Lian was the child they had lost back then. Haha, third elder, now you should believe what I said. As long as we join forces to bring the Holy Maiden back to the sect, you will definitely be rewarded greatly, and haha, don't worry. As long as you bring the Holy Maiden back, I will definitely stand on your side. Naturally, your marriage with Qianqian will not be a problem. When the young man spoke, the old man also laughed faintly. Hearing this, the young man's face immediately revealed a joyful smile. He hurriedly bowed respectfully to the old man in front of him. As the old man smiled and waved his hand, he did not notice that when the young man lowered his head, an extremely obscure sinister light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 1308. Outside of ancient Orchid City, Xiao Yan was currently holding a map in his hand. The map detailed the distribution of the various large regions in the middle region, as well as the locations of some cities and superfactions. Among them, the location of the Xiao clan was also marked in detail. Additionally, Xiao Yan also noticed that the nearest faction to them was the Du Ai sect. The Heavenly Cloud Villa was located in the north, while the Cloud Immortal sect was located in the southeast. Among the four great factions, only the Ghost Temple sect was not marked on the map. Putting these aside, based on the location of the Xiao clan on the map, it was obvious that Xiao Yan would have to go through quite a long journey in order to reach it. The Yuanwu continent was very large, and the middle region included countless clans and factions. Although these so-called superfactions were able to hold their own in this place, it did not mean that the middle region belonged to them. This might seem like an extremely short distance on the map, but if they really had to travel, it was likely that even with Xiao Yan's current cultivation, it would take at least a month to reach the Xiao clan. Moreover, the little fairy doctor and the rest were following him. The group had just arrived and naturally had nowhere to go. Putting aside the fact that the little fairy doctor and Bai Hua would follow Xiao Yan, Li Bingrui would also not easily let him off. As for Lian, she would naturally follow the four of them. Now that Xiao Yan was rushing to the Xiao clan, they naturally had to follow him. Let's go to the Xiao clan. Xiao Yan took the lead after greeting the few of them. His toes gently pressed on the ground, and his body rushed into the air in the blink of an eye. Behind him, the little fairy doctor and the rest quickly followed. The group flew in the direction of the Xiao clan on the map. Not long after the group left, two human figures swiftly flew out from ancient Orchid City. They looked in the direction that Xiao Yan's group had left in and laughed coldly. After which, they turned into two black figures and quickly chased after them. According to the markings on the map, the Xiao clan was located in Xiao City. The Xiao clan's faction was located in the surrounding thousands of miles. Further out were some smaller clans and sections. Although these factions did not seem worth mentioning on the map, they were undoubtedly much stronger than Xiao Yan's group. The middle region is really filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Ancestor Fan Tian's origin sect is already considered the strongest in the southern region. However, in the middle region, it is at most an ordinary third-tier faction. Origin sect experts are only below average here. In that case, wouldn't the sect leaders of these super factions be at least Origin venerables? Tisk tsk tsk. Origin venerables. Just the cultivation of a Origin sect expert is already so terrifying. If they are Origin venerables. The little fairy doctor and the rest involuntarily smacked their lips when these words reached this point. They did not dare to easily imagine the strength of an Origin venerate expert. At the front, Xiao Yan smiled indifferently. Although the Origin venerate stage was still very far away from them, this group was still much younger than those experts. Regardless of whether it was their cultivation talent or character, they would not be lacking. He believed that as long as they were given enough time, it would not be difficult for them to become Origin venerables. However, just as this group of people was swiftly flying toward the eastern sky, Xiao Yan, who had a calm expression, suddenly frowned. An obscure glint swiftly flashed deep within his eyes. At the same time, his gaze swiftly collided with Bai Hua by his side. The latter had sensed the caution in Xiao Yan's eyes in the blink of an eye. "What is it?" The little fairy doctor frowned and asked in a puzzled voice when she saw Xiao Yan and Bai Hua suddenly become quiet. "Be careful, there might be trouble." While speaking, a thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind and the vigorous Genesis Qi in the vortex in his body immediately began to circulate. Boundless energy swiftly flowed through the Qi paths in his body like waves as a purple flame gradually rose in his pitch-black eyes. The group of people who were flying forward came to a halt. Numerous vigilant gazes looked in the direction they came from. At the end of their line of sight, two blurry black dots were rapidly approaching. In just a few breaths, two figures, one old and one young, had already appeared in their line of sight. The group frowned when they saw the two unfamiliar figures from afar. They had just arrived in the central region and had yet to provoke any faction. If they had to target someone, it would be the few Origin Kings from before. However, Xiao Yan had not killed them, so what was the point of this? "The two of you seem to have followed us for a long time. May I know what you need from us?" Xiao Yan frowned and walked towards the group. He cupped his hands together towards the two figures nearby and said in a low voice. The old man and the young man slowly approached Xiao Yan's group when they heard this. The old man's dark old eyes swept over Lian Air. After which, they landed on the little fairy doctor. A glint involuntarily flashed deep within his old eyes. With his eyesight, he was naturally able to tell that these two girls possessed the woeful poison body. Immediately, he involuntarily rejoiced in his heart. Bringing back a holy maiden would allow him to obtain great benefits. However, if he were to bring back two people with the woeful poison body, it would undoubtedly be an even greater contribution. At this moment, an endless killing intent surged into Su Zhen's eyes the moment he saw Xiao Yan. The various things that had happened in the past were still vivid in his mind. Since Xiao Yan had appeared in front of him today, he would naturally seek revenge for all the enmity from the past. If it were not for the sake of the overall situation, it was likely that the current him would have already been unable to resist charging forward to fight with Xiao Yan. "Haha, it can't be considered teaching. I'm here to ask for someone." The old man gently stroked his beard. His gaze paused on Xiao Yan with some surprise. Such a young Origin emperor was indeed rare, especially one who had come from the borders of the continent. This was even more surprising. However, an Origin emperor was ultimately an Origin emperor. In the eyes of the Origin sect experts, there was still too much of a difference. "Ask for someone?" Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly when he heard this. Surprise surfaced in his eyes. This was the first time they had met the two people in front of them. Why would they ask for someone? "The little girl behind you is the holy maiden of my Du Yi sect, who has been missing for many years. I'm here to bring her back." Xiao Yan's expression immediately turned gloomy when he heard this. It really was what he wanted. Now that he was in the central region, he was afraid that he would encounter the people from the Du Yi sect. However, he did not expect to encounter the people from the Du Yi sect right after he left the ancient Orchid City. This was not a good thing. Since they had recognized Lian Er's special constitution, Xiao Yan understood that regardless of whether the girl was the holy maiden that the old man spoke of, the old man would bring her back today. However, this was not something that Xiao Yan wanted to see. Xiao Xian had already been brought back to that unknown clan. How could he hand Lian Er over to a faction that he did not know about and did not even have a good impression of? Therefore, today was probably Wonderful Bookstore. Chapter 1309. Of course, if you are still worried or are willing, you can join my Do-E sect. I can guarantee that given your talent, you will definitely become a core disciple if you join my Do-E sect. Your future achievements will be limitless, and you may even be able to take on great responsibilities in my Do-E sect, becoming... My apologies, I have no interest in joining your esteemed sect. As for the girl, she is my friend's disciple, and I cannot hand her over to you. Therefore, I will have to ask old Mr. to return. Before the old man could finish his sentence, Xiao Yan shook his head, firmly rejecting the other party's wishes. The expression on Su Zhan's face involuntarily changed when he heard the words of the old man beside him. He did not expect that this old man who would not die would cherish Xiao Yan's talent and want to recruit him to the Do-E sect. If Xiao Yan really succeeded, it would not be good for his revenge or even his other plans. Fortunately, Xiao Yan's reply caused him to be quite satisfied. Only in this way did he have a reason to urge this fellow beside him to attack and kill Xiao Yan. Third elder, this brat dares to speak to you in such a manner and even underestimate my Do-E sect. We must teach him a lesson. Although the old man knew that Su Zhan was merely adding fuel to the fire, this was Xiao Yan's attitude. What's more, there were two woeful poison bodies placed in front of him. Since Xiao Yan was unwilling to hand over the girl no matter what, the old man naturally had no choice but to personally take action. Kid, this old man cherishes talent, so I don't want to fight with you. However, that little girl is my sect's holy maiden. No matter what, this old man must bring her back today. If you continue to be stubborn, then don't blame this old man for taking action. As the somewhat hoarse voice was spat out from the old man's mouth, a powerful aura and pressure suddenly swept out from the old man's body. The frightening aura caused the expression on Xiao Yan's face to instantly change. At the same time, the little fairy doctor and the rest hurriedly adjusted the Genesis Chi in their bodies. 4-star origin sect, huh? Xiao Yan's expression changed as he sensed the powerful aura that spread from the old man's body. At the same time, he involuntarily let out a quiet cry in his heart. This kind of cultivation was even a little stronger than ancestor Fen Tian. Bas! Immediately after, Su Zhan's body trembled slightly as another powerful aura swept out. At this moment, his aura had already reached the level of a 3-star origin emperor. Of course, this was under the premise that he was concealing his true strength. Otherwise, if the old man beside him knew that Su Zhan's cultivation had already reached that of a 6-star origin emperor, he would probably be shocked. An origin ancestor and an origin emperor. Such a lineup was already considered terrifying for Xiao Yan's current group. Fortunately, the other experts from the Crossing Adversity sect had yet to arrive. Otherwise, once they gathered even more experts, it would truly be difficult for them to escape. Brat, I'll give you one more chance. Either hand over the Saintess or leave with me. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking action. The old man stared at Xiao Yan with a cold expression. Xiao Yan was merely an initial origin emperor. Such a cultivation was far from enough in front of him. Once he personally attacked, it was likely that this group of people would not even have the chance to retaliate. I'm sorry, we don't have the Saintess you want here, and we won't leave with you. So please. At the same time that the cry was spat out from Xiao Yan's mouth, his body suddenly shook. A purple-colored heavenly flame immediately spat out from the pores all over his body. In the blink of an eye, it covered his entire body. At the same time, the temperature of this place suddenly rose. The originally warm and moist air immediately became dry and hot. Even the mountain forest below was similarly affected. This is a heavenly fire? The old man's pupils abruptly shrank at the sight of the purple flames on Xiao Yan's body. Surprise involuntarily appeared on his face. Heavenly fires had long since gained sentience, but he never imagined that there would be a human who could control a heavenly fire. This was truly unheard of. Brat, I'm suddenly curious about you. To think that you can control a heavenly fire. No wonder you've reached the Origin Emperor stage at such a young age. However, I'll still say the same thing. If you don't intend to hand over the Saintess, I'll have no choice but to kill you here. I'll personally bring the Saintess back. As he spoke, the old man's withered hand gradually lifted as black Genesis Chi slowly condensed in his palm. Soon after, it condensed into a black blade that was curved like a crescent moon. The blade did not have a hilt, and the 3 fingers wide blade was clamped between the old man's 5 fingers. The sharp blade gave off a chilling aura that sent chills down one's spine. Brat, Remember my name, Tang Long. As his low voice rang out, the old man's hand trembled slightly. The ink-colored blade shot out in the blink of an eye, slicing through space. With a few twists, it arrived in front of Xiao Yan, its chilling blade heading straight for the spot between Xiao Yan's brows. If the blade landed, Xiao Yan would undoubtedly die. Dragon Phoenix Ancient Armor, Golden Elephant Art, Heavenly Fire Armor, Condense. Xiao Yan let out an explosive cry in his heart. On his body, 3 layers of protection were agglomerated and formed in the blink of an eye. The fierce purple-colored flame was so agglomerated that it appeared to be a substance. As the purple-colored flame flowed, it was as viscous as a liquid. However, that frightening temperature still caused people to be frightened. If Xiao Yan had relied on his sky extinction steps, he would have been able to easily dodge this attack. However, the little fairy doctor and the others were standing behind him. In order to prevent them from being injured, Xiao Yan could only rely on his brute force to forcefully receive this attack. Tang Long could not help but sneer when he saw the heavenly fire armor that seemed to have solidified on Xiao Yan's body. Brat, I know that a heavenly fire is extraordinary, but if you think that you can block my black moon blade with just this, you're too naive. In the next moment, the strange black-colored curved blade in the sky violently smashed into Xiao Yan's body under his 3 layers of defense. Bang! The moment the curved blade made contact with the heavenly flame armor, the rotating body of the curved blade paused for a moment. Soon after, it began to rotate wildly. The black-colored glow continued to appear. Looking from the side, it appeared like a black-colored full moon. The sharpness on it also repeatedly struck Xiao Yan's heavenly flame armor. Over 10 seconds later, one could hear a bang sound. Xiao Yan's heavenly flame armor was actually forcefully broken apart by the curved blade. Even Xiao Yan's body was forced back a couple of steps. Giant elephant art. Break. Another low cry sounded. Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook. A ferocious force immediately poured out like a flood erupting from a mountain. At the same time, a piercingly cold golden light was emitted from Xiao Yan's body. A frightening force actually sent the curved blade flying. At the same time, a slight cracking sound was emitted from Xiao Yan's golden body. Although Xiao Yan had relied on the heavenly flame armor and the giant elephant skill to successfully block the old man's attack, the giant elephant skill had also reached the edge of breaking. The strength of this old man was much more frightening than Xiao Yan had imagined. If he wanted to quickly escape from these 2 people, it was likely that he could no longer be as slow as when he was dealing with Buto Hao. Chapter 13:10. Ha! Seeing that his scimitar was actually forcefully sent flying by Xiao Yan while the latter appeared to be completely uninjured, Tang Long's sunken old eyes involuntarily revealed a shocked expression. Boy, I can't believe you managed to block my Black Moon scimitar with your initial origin Emperor cultivation. You really surprised me. As Tang Long spat out these words, an icy look emerged on his old face. Genesis Chi rapidly circulated in his meridians and gushed out. Surging power surged and gathered in the surrounding void, and the deadly poison contained in the Genesis Chi caused the void to tremble. Usually, the Do AI sex method of dealing with people who could not become friends with them was to kill them. This was especially the case for someone like Xiao Yan, whose training talent was extremely great, but who just so happened to affect the Do AI sex benefits. Since they could not make use of Xiao Yan was destined to become their enemy in the future. Xiao Yan's expression didn't change in the slightest. The Genesis Chi in the vortex in his body rapidly circulated, and a powerful mysterious flame frantically gathered in the palm of his right hand. Terrifying power that contained the aura of reincarnation slowly gathered in his palm. Xiao Yan was well aware of the strength of this fellow in front of him. If he were to fight head-on, it was likely that he would not gain the slightest advantage. Moreover, since they were able to block them here, it was likely that there would be experts from the Do AI sect nearby. If they were to drag this out, it would not benefit their group at all. Hence, the angry Buddha reincarnation was his greatest hope. As long as he could force Tang Long back, Su Zhen beside him would naturally no longer pose a threat. Oh! Tang Long's old face once again changed when he sensed the aura that had gathered on Xiao Yan's right hand. There was even some disbelief in his eyes. An initial origin Emperor brat was actually able to agglomerate such a frightening strength? Boy, stop! A low cry sounded and Tang Long's body, which was suspended in the air, suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Xiao Yan's expression suddenly changed. The absolute sky steps under his feet were unleashed. His body immediately dodged to the side without any hesitation. The empty space in front of him, which was still calm a moment ago, suddenly became distorted in the next second. A shriveled hand was suddenly extended. 5 fingers were curled into a claw that reached for Xiao Yan's face. However, the claw brushed past Xiao Yan's face the moment it attacked. So fast! Tang Long's heart shook. He didn't expect a mere Origin Emperor to possess speed comparable to an Origin Sect expert. Xiao Yan's right cheek involuntarily twitched at the same time his body paused. Due to the old man's special Genesis Chi, a purple-colored wound that was tainted by poison was left on one side of his face. Soon after, the heavenly flame surged. Only then did it remove all the poison with a slight sizzling sound. At the same time, the speed at which Xiao Yan gathered strength in his palm also abruptly increased. Boy, it seems that I've underestimated you. Ordinary Origin Emperors can't compare to the fact that you possess a heavenly fire. With a stern shout, Tang Long's body flashed forward again. With a wave of his sleeve, a large expanse of poisonous mist immediately swept outwards, pouncing toward Xiao Yan from all directions. As the latter dodged, he opened his mouth and spat out a ferocious flame, transforming into a giant fire net that charged into the black poisonous mist. A series of sizzling noises rang out as a large expanse of black smoke rose. The poisonous mist rapidly thinned under the obstruction of the heavenly fire. At this moment, Tang Long's body flashed and arrived beside Xiao Yan. He waved his large hand and the space around Xiao Yan immediately became distorted. Numerous black curtains that contained poison swiftly agglomerated and formed. Boy, let's see where you can run to. The strength of the great Tao surged and Xiao Yan's 4 paths of escape were immediately blocked. Tang Long clenched his 5 fingers and a black-colored poison gas swiftly agglomerated in his hand. It once again transformed into a curved blade. With a swing of his hand, the curved blade shot explosively toward Xiao Yan. At the same time, Tang Long's body also charged forward. Under this double pressure, even with Xiao Yan's agility, it was impossible for him to dodge Tang Long's attack. When trouble arrived, Xiao Yan also hurriedly used the Great Path of the Void. As the black curtains condensed behind him, several steel needles appeared in his left hand. With a flick of his wrist, the steel needles flew out, and his body sank into the Great Path tent while lying on his back. Asterisk clang clang clang. Asterisk following several crisp collisions, sparks flew and the curved blade was blocked. Tang Long appeared in front of Xiao Yan. The moment the latter's body sank into the Great Path tent, Tang Long's 5 fingers clawed and left 5 burning bloody marks on Xiao Yan's chest. Asterisk pft. Asterisk on the other side, while Xiao Yan narrowly dodged Tang Long's attack, he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Compared to Tang Long, even with the protection of the Great Path of the Void, it was still difficult for him to match up. Tang Long's strength had far exceeded his expectations. If he fought alone without using any of his trump cards, he would definitely not be this old man's match. Damn it! It's actually the Great Path of the Void. Boy, you're much more dangerous than this old man imagined. Xiao Yan had continuously dodged his attacks, and even the power of the Great Path of the Void had not been able to successfully stop him. This made Tang Long's expression turn gloomy. As a dignified Origin Sect expert, dealing with an early Origin Emperor brat was completely easy. However, today, Xiao Yan had repeatedly made him suffer. If news of this spread, how could he, Tang Long, still have the face to continue living in the central region? Cough cough. The same goes for you. You are indeed worthy of being a Genesis Sect expert, and your cultivation is indeed frightening. However, I am unable to do the same for Senior, who is willing to throw away his face to deal with a junior like me. Xiao Yan coughed a few times when he heard this. He could not help but grin as he felt the sweet taste of blood in his mouth, revealing a callous smile. The muscles at the corner of Tang Long's eyes twitched violently when he heard this. The fury in his heart burned even more fiercely. Sharp-tongued brat, you will pay the price for your words and actions. Tang Long's expression became increasingly ugly as he watched the terrifying aura gradually condense in Xiao Yan's palm. As his words rang out, Tang Long's figure instantly appeared near Xiao Yan like a ghost. His face wore a sinister smile as he eerily smiled at Xiao Yan. Soon after, his 5 fingers mercilessly grabbed at Xiao Yan's throat like a ghost's claw. Judging from the force behind his attack, Xiao Yan's throat would be directly pierced if he was hit. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 13:11. The ghost claw, which contained a dark black poison gas, was swiftly magnified in Xiao Yan's eyes. The expressions of the little fairy doctors group a short distance away had also become grave at this moment. Once an expert from a 4-star source zone truly attacked, it was no laughing matter. Xiao Yan's expression did not change much at this moment. The purple flame in his eyes surged as the great Dao tent was once again formed in front of him. At the same time, the fire wheel in his palm was swiftly gathering energy. Its aura had also become increasingly frightening. As long as he waited a little longer, the angry Buddha reincarnation would be completely formed. Even if this old man was a 4-star source zone, he would not be able to easily receive it. The dark black ghost claw quickly followed after Xiao Yan once again stabilized his body. While Xiao Yan's body dodged to the left and right, it still left behind a bloody scar on Xiao Yan's ribs. The dark black poison gas was just about to spread when it was quickly incinerated by the purple flame that filled Xiao Yan's body. The chase between the two was close and swift. On the other side, Su Zhan watched the crazy fight between the two in the arena. A vicious expression gradually surfaced in his eyes. Xiao Yan's strength had far exceeded his expectations. If Tang Long was not present today, it was likely that he would have difficulty finishing off Xiao Yan alone. Moreover, based on the situation in front of him, even with Tang Long's strength, he might not be able to control Xiao Yan in front of Xiao Yan, who possessed the Void Way. The murderous intent in Su Zhan's heart grew even denser when he thought of this. His body stood in the air without moving. Threads of Genesis Chi quietly gathered in his palm under his sleeves. His eyes, which contained killing intent, stared intently at Xiao Yan, who was paying full attention to Tang Long. The corner of his mouth was slowly lifted into a cold smile. Thud. With a muffled sound, Tang Long's palm slammed into Xiao Yan's shoulder. Although the latter had the Heaven Annihilation steps, it was unavoidable for him to be injured by the 4-star Genesis sect expert Tang Long. Powerful power burst out from Tang Long's palm, instantly causing half of Xiao Yan's body to lose all feeling. The Buddha's fury samsara in his right hand nearly dissipated as a result. Tang Long's figure followed closely behind, his sharp ghostly claw shooting over like lightning. Just as it was about to strike Xiao Yan's throat, the latter's body abruptly shifted backwards, the great Tao of Void flashing around his body as he switched to the Heaven Annihilation steps. All that was left was a blurry afterimage as his body mysteriously vanished. Tang Long's claws mercilessly tore the afterimage in front of him to shreds. As he let out a cold snort, poison shot out from his palm, blasting the afterimage into nothingness. Tang Long turned around, his chilling gaze as he looked towards a certain spot in the sky and icily said voice. Brat, do you only know how to run? Ha ha, old Mister's cultivation far surpasses this junior's. If not, I would have long since died at your hands. However, since old Mister does not wish for me to continue hiding, I will fulfill old Mister's request. The pale-faced Xiao Yan slowly turned around. The corner of his mouth was lifted into a cold smile. Immediately, he slowly lifted his right hand. A gorgeous purple-colored fire wheel whizzed and rotated in his palm. A dark black light spot within it was as deep as a black hole. At the same time that the light spot slowly distorted and changed, a frightening aura that was filled with a destructive feeling quietly spread out from it. Is this a great Dao technique? But how is it possible for it to possess such a frightening energy? Even with Tang Long's temperament, the expression on his old face involuntarily became ugly when he sensed the frightening aura that spread from the fire wheel. He could sense a dense threatening aura from the fire wheel. Tang Long did not doubt that if this thing landed on his body, he would definitely have difficulty escaping death. However, was such a frightening Dao technique really something an initial stage origin Emperor Brat could do? Even though he was extremely unwilling in his heart, the truth was already placed in front of him. Xiao Yan's angry Buddha reincarnation had already been formed. Once it erupted, what he needed to consider was no longer how to kill Xiao Yan but how to protect himself. Angry Buddha reincarnation, go! Xiao Yan's emotionless eyes looked at Tang Long. The corner of his blood-stained mouth lifted slightly. The expression in his eyes was unusually indifferent and cold. As those words were slowly emitted from his mouth, Xiao Yan's hand trembled gently. The purple fire wheel suddenly began to rotate wildly in his palm. The thumb-sized strange black spot within it also began to tremble intensely at this moment. The instant the space around Xiao Yan exploded, a huge black light pillar suddenly shot out from the fire wheel in his palm. It expanded with the wind and in the blink of an eye, It had transformed into a shocking light pillar that was dozens of feet thick. It appeared as though it wanted to pierce through the sky as it suddenly shot towards Tang Long. Damn it! At this moment, Tang Long could not help but become increasingly furious. How could he have imagined that Xiao Yan, who was merely an initial origin emperor brat, would actually make him feel such great pressure that it even threatened his life? Brat, you are the first person in so many years that I have treated you like this. Tang Long did not dare to hesitate any longer as his expression changed. He deeply inhaled a breath of air and held it in his chest. Soon after, his old face rapidly turned purplish-black. This state only lasted for an instant before waves of hissing sounds were heard. Countless strange purplish-black poisonous gases burst out from the countless pores on the surface of his body in all directions. Moreover, the strange poisonous gases seemed to be mixed with traces of scarlet blood, causing the poisonous gases to become even more strange and sinister. Blood cloud poison sky. An invisible cry was emitted from Tang Long's mouth in a hoarse voice. After this cry sounded, the strange blood-colored poisonous gases that lingered around his body also swiftly swelled. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into a blood-colored poisonous cloud that was 1,000 feet in size. Tang Long's body was completely wrapped by this poisonous cloud. The moment this poisonous cloud appeared, the empty space where Tang Long was immediately distorted. Numerous enormous cracks appeared in the empty space. Even the area where the few of them were located became dark at this moment. A thin layer of black fog quietly spread in the air. The originally calm mountain forest below also became distorted and melted. Finally, it transformed into a sludge that contained a strange poisonous gas. The little fairy doctor also immediately discovered this point in the empty space. She hurriedly waved her sleeves. An invisible aura spread and scattered the poisonous gases that were about to approach them. At the same time, the collision between Xiao Yan and Tang Long had also completely begun. Chapter 13:12. While the strange blood-colored poison cloud was being formed in the sky, the enormous black-colored energy light pillar that cut through the sky also arrived. Following the swift approach of the black-colored light pillar, the blood-colored poison cloud also began to fluctuate intensely. Threads of dense white fog rose from within it, after which, it was swallowed by the strange suction force that surged from the black-colored light pillar. The fluctuation in the air also became increasingly intense as the two became increasingly closer. The originally calm empty space seemed to have formed an enormous spatial wave at this moment, as though a meteorite had smashed into the surface of a lake. The entire place began to fluctuate intensely because of this. The little fairy doctor's group and Su Zhen's expressions were especially grave as they watched the scene in the sky. They widened their eyes in disbelief as they watched the shocking light pillar that cut through the sky and suddenly collide with the poison cloud in the sky. Chi! The black-colored light pillar was accompanied by a slight chi-chi sound when it entered the poison cloud. After which, it quietly charged into the depths of the poison cloud that permeated the entire sky. However, the earth-shaking explosion that everyone had imagined did not appear after that. The strange black-colored poison cloud had descended into a strange calmness at this moment. The angry Buddha lotus flame did not penetrate it, nor did it scatter the poison cloud. Only the poison cloud on the periphery was vaporized into white smoke the instant it came into contact with the black-colored light pillar. After which, it was sucked into the black light pillar. The strange calmness in the sky caused everyone present to involuntarily hold their breaths. Even Su Zhen, who was prepared to attack, did not dare to act recklessly at this moment. The energy that was agglomerated in his palm alternated between bright and dark. The viciousness in his eyes was also drowned under the pressure of the dense aura of death. Quickly withdraw. Almost at the same time, Bai Hua and the old man in Su Zhen's body suddenly cried out. The expressions of the group quickly changed, and their figures rapidly retreated without any hesitation. Between the heavens and the earth, several air-piercing sounds rang out one after another. The strange atmosphere that lingered in everyone's heart also became increasingly heavy. Within the poisonous cloud, the clouds that covered the sky and the black light pillar trembled together. The unceasingly trembling void suddenly shattered, and at the same time, bang! A low and deep explosion sound had just sounded when the blood-colored poison cloud suddenly churned. A wave of intense chi-chi sound continued to resound. Waves of white-colored fog spread out from deep within the poison cloud. The black-colored light pillar formed a strange whirlpool that completely swallowed the fog. After which, a bang sound appeared and the poison cloud immediately churned and swelled. It appeared to be alive as it followed the black-colored energy light pillar and spread towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's pale face immediately revealed a grave expression when he saw this. Compared to Xie Shan, Tang Long in front of him was undoubtedly many times stronger. If he were to allow the poison cloud to spread, it was likely that he would not be able to block the attack of this old fellow even if he relied on his angry Buddha reincarnation. With this thought in mind, Xiao Yan immediately began to manically maneuver all the remaining Genesis Qi in his body. He poured all of it into the fire wheel in his hand without any hesitation. After which, his arm suddenly shook and the fire wheel in his hand trembled. A wave of turbulent energy spread from it. As the color of the wheel became increasingly deep, the devouring power lingering around the black light pillar also became increasingly ferocious. Under this terrifying suction force, the rapidly spreading blood-colored poison cloud was immediately torn into the light pillar. At the same time, under the effect of the poison cloud, the pitch-black light pillar also trembled violently at this moment. Bzz 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 bzz. As a low buzzing sound rang out, the blood-colored poison cloud churned more and more violently. The energy light on the black light pillar flickered, and at a certain moment, 100-foot-wide energy wave swept out from the blood-colored poison cloud with a loud bang. As the energy spread out, even the air was forcibly compressed into a vacuum world. The poison cloud also spread out, and the terrifying poison caused the invisible space to constantly distort until it collapsed. The little fairy doctor and the others in the distance revealed grave expressions as they watched the scene in the sky. Their hearts were worried for Xiao Yan while also feeling surprised at the frightening strength that the two of them had displayed. Su Zhan rejoiced a little as he watched the scene in the sky. It was fortunate that he had not acted impulsively earlier. It was likely that he would have to face this frightening energy storm head-on at this moment. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Numerous spatial cracks gradually appeared on the black light pillar in the sky. The energy within it also became increasingly uncontrollable. Numerous shattered light rays shot out from within it. At the same time, the poison cloud that Tang Long was in also churned violently. Waves of hoarse low roars would occasionally be emitted from it. From the sound of it, one could confirm that it was Tang Long bang. Suddenly, an explosive sound once again resounded. The fire wheel in Xiao Yan's hand and the shocking poison cloud that blotted out the sun exploded at the same time. Waves of turbulent and surging energy waves continued to sweep out from within. The invisible space was destroyed time and time again. Xiao Yan and Tang Long's bodies were also sent flying by this terrifying energy storm. The two of them were like kites with their strings cut as they fell. After which, they were caught by Hua and Su Zhan. Su Zhan received the seriously injured Tang Long in his embrace. He looked at the latter's miserable appearance and knit his brows tightly. He involuntarily cursed in his heart. He did not expect that even Tang Long was unable to finish off Xiao Yan. From the looks of it now, it was likely that he would have to personally intervene. However, when Su Zhan released Tang Long and looked at Xiao Yan and the others, the similarly heavily injured Xiao Yan used the last of his strength to release the Northern King from his storage ring. At the same time, the vigilant and hostile gazes of the fairy doctor and the others landed on Su Zhan. Su Zhan's expression could not help but become somewhat ugly when he saw the strange lightning flickering on the surface of the Northern King. Even with his true cultivation as a six-star origin emperor, he could not help but feel a sense of pressure when facing the Northern King, let alone the fairy doctor and the others behind him. Even though he still had the old man in his body, Tang Long was not dead. He could not risk exposing his trump card too much. If that happened, his trip today would have been for nothing. The muscles on Su Zhan's face involuntarily twitched when he thought of this. Only when Tang Long behind him coughed intensely did he turn around. His face was once again respectful as he walked to Tang Long's side and helped him up. His gaze cautiously eyed Xiao Yan's group on the opposite side. Next, both parties faced each other for a short moment before Su Zhan was the first to lead Tang Long away from this place. After which, the little fairy doctor and the others also supported Xiao Yan. After some hesitation, they turned and headed north. Chapter 13:13. After the battle with Tang Long, Xiao Yan was seriously injured. The group turned around and headed north. The north was where the Tian Yun Villa was located. The group had just reached the middle region when they met the experts from the Du Yi sect. Although they had managed to force them back this time around, there might be other experts from the Du Yi sect who would chase after them. Looking at Tang Long's stance, it seemed that he valued Lien Er's woeful poison body extremely highly. If they continued to head east, It was likely that they would meet with trouble that they could not resolve. Moreover, given Xiao Yan's current condition, he really needed some time to recover. Currently, the closest and safest place was likely the Tianyun villa where Luo Jin was at. As long as they reached that place, it was likely that even with the foundation of the Du-Yi sect, they would have no choice but to think carefully. While Xiao Yan's group was heading towards the Tianyun villa, on the other side, the seriously injured Tang Long was led by Su Zhen to the sky above a mountain forest not far from the ancient Orchid City. Su Zhen, who should have continued to head back, stopped when they arrived at this place. Tang Long, on the other hand, took the opportunity to take a short break on a mountain peak because he had consumed a medicinal pill. Asterisk cough asterisk cough asterisk. Asterisk little fellow, this time around, it is all thanks to you. If you were not around, I'm afraid that I would have already. The pale-faced Tang Long's body trembled as he sat cross-legged on the mountain peak. It was as though he would easily fall if the wind blew. Su Zhen stood beside him with his hands behind his back. His eyes looked in the direction that Xiao Yan's group had left in. At the same time that a murderous intent surged in his eyes, a fierce glint also flashed across his eyes. After which, his eyes slowly landed on Tang Long beside him. Third Elder's words are too serious. This matter was originally caused by me. If I did not inform you, such a situation would not have occurred. I hope that Elder will forgive me. Ugh, if we really want to talk about it, it is all my fault for being careless. Who could have imagined that that brat was merely an initial stage origin emperor, yet he was actually able to unleash such a frightening dose skill. I will likely be laughed at when I return this time around. Additionally, I was unable to bring back the Holy Maiden. It will only be more troublesome when the sect leader learns about it. Tang Long furrowed his brows. His pale face was filled with worry. He knew the sect master's character. He had obtained news of the Holy Maiden but had not reported it. Now, he had failed to bring her back and was even covered in injuries. Not only would he not receive any sympathy, he would even receive an even greater punishment. Haha, Elder, actually this junior has a method. Not only can it allow you to avoid punishment, but it can also make the sect leader feel sorry for you. However, at this moment, Su Zhen chuckled. She slowly bent down and gently placed her right hand on Tang Long's back with a smile. Hearing this, Tang Long raised his brows, and a hint of joy appeared on his old face. If he could get the sect master to be exempted from any punishment, he didn't care about anything else. He hurriedly asked, "Tell me what method?" "That is." Su Zhen slowly opened her mouth. At the same time, the smile on her face grew warmer and warmer. At the same time, the hand on Tang Long's back slowly lowered as she continued. "You will die. Poochie." The moment Su Zhen's voice faded, Genesis Chi condensed in her right palm and instantly pierced through Tang Long's chest. Tang Long trembled all over as he stared at Su Zhen in disbelief. Then, he slowly lowered his head and looked at the blood-red palm that had pierced through his chest. He couldn't believe that Su Zhen would attack him. Why? I am the third elder of the Du-Yi sect. What good will it do you to kill me? It is precisely because you are the third elder of the Du-Yi sect that the other higher-ups will be alarmed if you die. At that time, I won't have to look for them. Those old bastards will take the initiative to find us. From where we are now, if we chase after them, we may be able to catch up to Xiao Yan and the others. As for you, you will become my nourishment. The warm smile on Su Zhen's face disappeared in an instant, replaced by a sinister and cruel expression. Su Zhen clenched his right hand with a sinister grin, and a strange suction force was suddenly released from his palm. At the same time, the remaining Genesis Chi in Tang Long's body began to circulate uncontrollably. Wisps of Genesis Chi gathered in Su Zhen's palm and were absorbed into his body. You wretched disciple, even if I die today, I will destroy you. Sensing the strange changes in his body, Tang Long's heart was filled with fear. Only now did he realize that his sect master's worry for Su Zhen was not fake. But it was already too late. Tang Long's body trembled violently as he roared with unwillingness. The remaining Genesis Chi in the vortex in his body also violently surged. Two powerless hands desperately clutched Su Zhen's hand, and the expression on his old face gradually turned sinister. It seemed that the old man was planning to self-destruct and perish together with Su Zhen. Hey, self-destruct? Teacher, please. Not only was Su Zhen not the slightest bit worried when he saw this, he even laughed coldly in disdain. If Tang Long was still in his peak condition, perhaps he would be worried. However, the current Tang Long was merely an arrow at the end of its flight. Coupled with the existence of his teacher, there was naturally no problem. As his voice sounded, a somewhat illusory figure appeared in the void beside the two. When Tang Long saw the figure in front of him, the expression on his deathly pale face abruptly turned to one of horror, and a roar of disbelief rang out from his mouth again. "You do! It's you!" "Hee hee, third brother, we finally meet again. I almost died in your hands back then. How about it? Now, it's my turn to take back everything that I've lost." As the cold laughter sounded, Yudu suddenly slammed his palm on Tang Long's head. One could only hear a muffled cracking sound, and Tang Long's mouth was wide open. His face was filled with grievances as he died. After a short while, Tang Long's body was wrapped in a strange poisonous fog and was gradually swallowed by Su Zhen. At the same time, the latter's face also strangely turned purplish-black. His eyeballs rolled continuously, and his body trembled as he hurriedly sat down. He forcefully suppressed the extremely dark and cold energy in his body and gradually refined it. Almost at the same time, on a mountain south of ancient Orchid City, 3 figures were gathering from different directions. At this moment, the 3 of them were frowning as they looked at the shattered soul jade tablet in their hands. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. "Third brother is dead. Who did it? Who actually dares to kill an elder of my Du-Yi sect? Are you courting death?" If they were afraid of death, they wouldn't have killed him. To be able to kill Tang Long, their cultivation is at least at the level of a 4-star source ancestor. Recently, no experts at the level of a 4-star source ancestor have appeared in this area, unless they are from the Heavenly Cloud Villa. That group of fellows usually mind their own business and rarely interact with us. Even if the conflict is not small, they should not have attacked us. Could it be someone else? Regardless of whether there is or not, let's go and take a look first. Everything will naturally be known when we reach the place. Chapter 13-14. At the peak of the cliff, Su Zhen's eyes, which had been tightly shut for a long time, finally opened as the aura within his body gradually calmed down. An obscure black light flashed across the depths of his eyes as a sliver of viciousness disappeared in the blink of an eye. The corners of Su Zhen's mouth involuntarily curled up as he sensed the powerful energy within his body. His body trembled slightly as he appeared high up in the sky. His right hand slowly clenched into a fist as he forcefully shook it. Immediately, the bones all over his body emitted cracking sounds. Huff! After doing this, Su Zhen exhaled a long breath of turbid air that had been suppressed in his chest as he involuntarily laughed. 9-star Origin Emperor. Just 1 more star and my cultivation will be able to step into the Origin sect. At that time, the only person left in the Du-Yi sect who can threaten me will be him. Haha, there's no need to rush. It's still early. I believe that the people over there have already sensed Tang Long's death and will arrive here soon. At that time, we will kill Xiao Yan and snatch his heavenly flame. As for the 2 woeful poison bodies, they will naturally not be important. The space beside Su Zhen slowly distorted as Yudu's illusory figure appeared. When he saw his disciple in such a state, not only was there not the slightest bit of worry in his heart, he even felt a little crazy. In order to obtain sufficient power, one had to pay an extremely great price. This price could be anything, be it time, energy, wealth, or even one's life. For some lunatics, as long as they could obtain sufficient power, they did not care about how much life they had left. Su Zhen was precisely this type of person. Such a person was destined to be crazy. Teacher, do you think that little girl is really the so-called holy maiden? Other than killing intent, Su Zhen was also curious about Lian Er when Xiao Yan's group was mentioned. Immediately, his face was filled with interest as he looked at Yudu. He did not really believe that a holy maiden, who had disappeared for so many years, would actually once again return to their sights. This was a little unrealistic. None of this is important. Regardless of whether she is the holy lady or not, as long as that girl has the woeful poison body, it is enough for the upper echelons of the Du-Er sect to take action. Once we obtain that woeful poison body, no one should be able to stop your marriage with that girl from the Du-Er sect. In the future, the Du-Er sect will belong to us. Yudu sneered in disdain. He did not care about his past identity. What was important now was to obtain the woeful poison body, and not to worry about the authenticity of Lian Er's identity. Now that they're here, It's up to you. All of a sudden, Yu Du frowned. Soon after, he hurriedly turned around and returned to Su Zhan's body. The latter gave a heavy nod and hurriedly lowered his body. He deliberately slapped his chest, causing the Genesis chi in his body to dissipate as his face paled. If those fellows knew that Tang Long was dead while his disciple was completely unharmed, he would not be able to avoid suspicion. Moments later, 3 figures arrived and saw a pale-faced Su Zhan seated on a mountain peak, recovering from his injuries. Only when he sensed the trio's arrival did Su Zhan cautiously open his eyes. After confirming their identities, respect and regret surfaced on his pale face as he hurriedly stood up and bowed to the trio. Disciple greets the 3 elders. Speak, what happened to Tang Long? Ignoring Su Zhan's respectful attitude, the leader of the trio fixed his somewhat gloomy gaze on Su Zhan as he asked in a low voice. Third elder, he, in order to save disciple. Get to the point, I'm not in the mood to listen to your complaints. Before Su Zhan's voice faded, the former bellowed again. Only then did Su Zhan's expression abruptly change. He bowed and continued. Third elder and this junior accidentally discovered our sect's saintess who had disappeared for many years. What did you say? Saintess? You found the saintess? Where is she? Before Su Zhan finished speaking, the expressions of the 3 old men in front of him changed at the same time. There was even a hint of shock in their eyes. If this news were to spread to the sect, it was likely that even the sect leader would be alarmed. Yes, but when we went to chase after her, we were stopped by a boy called Xiao Yan. In the end, the 3rd elder was killed by Xiao Yan. This junior tried my best to escape and luckily managed to keep my life, but the 3rd elder. Towards the end, tears involuntarily gushed out from Su Zhan's eyes, causing the 3 elders to laugh coldly in their hearts. Speaking of which, the news of the saintess was already shocking enough. What is the strength of this Xiao Yan you speak of, and which faction does he belong to? Could it be the Central Region's Xiao clan? The expressions on the trio's faces could not help but be stunned when they heard Xiao Yan's name. In their impression, there was no origin sect expert called Xiao Yan in the Central Region. Even if there was one, it was likely to be a member of the Xiao clan. However, if that was the case, it would be troublesome. The Xiao clan was one of the top factions in the Central Region. Even though their Crossing Adversity sect had an extraordinary status, it was undoubtedly much inferior to the Xiao clan. Elders, please be at ease. This Xiao Yan is not from the Central Region, but from the borders of the continent. Su Zhan nodded slightly and explained. Oh, from the borders of the continent? If that's the case, then there's no harm. Tell us, what star origin sect is he from? It's not easy to kill Tang Long. The elder in the lead gently nodded when he heard this, and his mood became much more relaxed. Since he was not from the Central Region, his life and death naturally did not matter. However, when Su Zhan heard the old man's words, the expression on his face unconsciously changed. His expression was a little strange for a moment. It was not until a long while later that he slowly said with some hesitation under the impatient gaze of the 3 people in front of him. 3 elders, that Xiao Yan is not an expert from the source sect. HSS. The trio's brows immediately raised when they heard these words, and they could not help but feel somewhat surprised. Someone who could kill Tang Long and was not a origin sect expert, could it be? Could it be a origin venerate level expert? Origin venerate. Would an expert of that level give up his status to kill a origin sect expert? Humph, Su Zhan, it's better for you to speak. Who exactly is he? While the few of them were doubtful, the old man in the lead turned his gaze back to Su Zhan. He raised his chin and sneered. Su Zhan could not help but open his mouth in fear when he saw the trio's gazes shoot over. Reporting to the 3 elders, that Xiao Yan is merely an early origin emperor. Chapter 13-15. The moment Su Zhan's words left his mouth, the expressions of the 3 elders instantly froze. They stared at Su Zhan in disbelief, unable to regain their senses for a long time. Did you say, the origin emperor? The origin emperor can kill a sorcerer? How is that possible? And an early origin emperor at that. Su Zhan, even if this is an excuse, you should find a better one. How could a mere origin emperor kill a sorcerer? Moreover, it was a 4-star sorcerer. Even an expert of the same level might not be able to kill him. The 3 elders were shocked by Su Zhan's words, but they were also doubtful. They even snorted disdainfully. Ever since they had started cultivating, they had never heard of a sorcerer being killed by a mere origin emperor. Furthermore, the difference in cultivation between Xiao Yan and Tang Long was enormous. How could the former have created such a shocking battle record? Three elders, that Xiao Yan's fighting strength may be ordinary, but he has grasped an extremely powerful Do technique. It was because he had used that Do technique that the third elder died. That Xiao Yan's body is currently seriously injured. The holy maiden of our sect is also following beside him. If we were to give chase now. Su Zhen changed his tone. He placed his focus on the matter of chasing after Xiao Yan and the holy maiden. After all, it would not be a good thing for him if he spent too much effort on the matter of Tang Long's death. The three elders immediately withdrew their thoughts when the holy maiden was mentioned. Now wasn't the time to debate whether this matter was true or false. Their main task was to find the holy maiden as soon as possible and bring her back to the sect. As for Xiao Yan, they would know what his cultivation was like when they met him. Under Su Zhen's guidance, the four of them quickly flew towards the north. The three elders were anxious to find the holy maiden, so they were naturally much faster. They shook off Su Zhen and disappeared into the horizon in a few breaths' time. Behind them, Su Zhen watched as the three of them disappeared, and the corners of his mouth slowly curled into a sneer. Hey, it is fortunate that they did not get entangled with the problem of Tang Long, otherwise, it would really be troublesome. However, it is fortunate that Xiao Yan has helped us resolve this problem. Teacher, this time around, Xiao Yan will definitely die. Hee, don't be impatient. Xiao Yan is also an arrow at the end of its flight. They're carrying a seriously injured person, so they won't be able to run far. Let's catch up to them quickly. After all, the heavenly flame in Xiao Yan's hands is very useful to you. It's naturally best if you can obtain it. The master and disciple communicated in their hearts for a while. Then, Su Zhen revealed his true strength and chased after Yi Qingyu at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, the seriously injured Xiao Yan was being carried by the little fairy doctors group as they swiftly hurried to the location of the Tianyun villa. Although they could not be certain if there would be experts from the Crossing Adversity sect chasing after them, it was best for them to reach the location of the Tianyun villa first. That way, their troubles would be greatly reduced. At the very least, they would be able to find a safe place to give Xiao Yan some time to recover. However, with their current speed, it was likely that they would need quite some time to reach the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Moreover, it was hard to say what would happen during this period of time. For example, once the experts from the Du-Yi sect caught up with them, the fairy doctor and the others didn't dare to think too much about it. They could only speed up, hoping to reach the Heavenly Cloud Villa before trouble came. Half a day later, within the vast forest, the little fairy doctor and the rest were currently seated in a rather secluded clearing. Other than Bai Hua, the rest of the group had completely retracted their auras into their bodies and were quietly resting. Bai Hua cautiously surveyed her surroundings on the branch of a towering ancient tree not far away. Her spiritual strength spread out as she carefully probed the surrounding environment. A moment later, she leaped down and returned to the group, nodding her head gently at the few of them. Xiao Yan was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the group. His face was pale, and the corners of his mouth twitched from time to time. In his body, waves of gentle medicinal power continuously flowed into his limbs and bones, repairing his damaged meridians. No matter how gentle the medicinal power was, the injuries in his body still caused Xiao Yan to feel a wave of pain. The battle with Tang Long was the strongest opponent Xiao Yan had encountered since the battle at the Burning Flame Valley. A four-star source sect was indeed not to be underestimated. If it wasn't for his powerful body, the protection of the Heavenly Flame, the Dragon Phoenix ancient armor, and the assistance of various medicinal pills, Xiao Yan would have had to pay an even more terrible price than Tang Long. Fortunately, he was still alive. However, the danger was not over yet. From Tang Long's point of view, Xiao Yan could already understand that the Due East sect seemed to place great importance on the woeful poison body. Even Tang Long did not hesitate to pay the price of being seriously injured in order to bring Lian Er back. There was no need to mention the attitude of the other experts from the Du-Yi sect. If he did not find a safe place as soon as possible, it was likely that he would not be able to successfully leave this middle region's border, much less reach the Xiao clan. Phew! Xiao Yan slowly exhaled a breath of air. He endured the waves of pain that were transmitted from his body, and once again consumed a medicinal pill. A thought immediately passed through his mind, and a vast ocean-like spiritual strength swiftly spread out from between his brows like floodwater. By relying on his enormous spiritual perception, Xiao Yan was able to clearly investigate the situation around him and even further away. However, just as Xiao Yan's spiritual perception spread out, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened a moment later. His pale white face instantly became ugly. He endured the intense pain within his body, hurriedly looked at Bai Hua, and hurriedly said, "What are you doing? Quickly leave this place. Someone is chasing us." Once Xiao Yan's words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present immediately changed. Their hearts, which had just calmed down, were lifted in an instant. They naturally did not have the slightest doubt toward Xiao Yan. Moreover, from the looks of Xiao Yan's expression, this person's cultivation was likely not weak. Therefore it was likely that they would have to change places now. Damn it, this group of fellows are really fast. Bai Hua carried Xiao Yan on her back and leaped into the air. The fairy doctor's white face was also filled with worry. Her pair of beautiful eyes paused on Xiao Yan. Immediately, she pulled Lianer with one hand and leaped into the air. However, Li Bingrue hesitated. Looking at the four people in front of her, she hesitated for a moment before saying, "Why don't you all leave first? I will lure them away." After saying this, she was about to move. "No, we are friends. If we are leaving, we will leave together." Immediately after, Bai Hua grabbed her wrist. She looked at Li Bingrue with a determined gaze. The latter sneered and said, "Friends? Don't forget, I want to kill Xiao Yan. Would you still call someone who wants to kill him a friend?" At the same time her voice sounded, a cold air suddenly appeared on Li Bingrue's delicate wrist. Bai Hua's hand trembled intensely. She involuntarily released her hand and took 2 steps back. Li Bingrue, on the other hand, moved her body and leaped into the air, intending to fly toward the south. It was also at this moment that Xiao Yan, who was on Bai Hua's back, suddenly opened his mouth and cried out, "Li Bingrue, did you forget the letter your master left for you? She asked you to follow me, and not to send you to your death at this time. I never said that I was going to my death, nor did I allow you to mention my master. If not for your serious injuries, I would have already killed you before they even caught up." Li Bingrue's expression abruptly turned cold in response to Xiao Yan's reprimand. Killing intent gathered in her eyes as she stared at Xiao Yan. Bai Hua could not help but frown when she saw this. The Genesis Qi in her body involuntarily began to circulate. On the other hand, Lianer was biting her red lips, a conflicted look on her pretty face. It was only at a certain moment that she took 2 steps forward and said in a meek voice, "The one they want is me. Why don't you let me?" However, before Lianer could finish her sentence, the 4 before her suddenly turned their heads and reprimanded her in unison. "You are not allowed." Chapter 13:16. Bai Hua's gaze involuntarily looked towards the southern horizon after her cry sounded. Her frown deepened. After which, she once again returned her gaze to the few people in front of her and said in a deep voice, "We are now a group. If we leave together. If we stay together. Li Bingrue, if you want to stay, we will stay with you." As she spoke, Bai Hua's body, which was floating in midair, descended. Behind her, the little fairy doctor also descended with Lianer. Seeing this, Li Bingrue involuntarily clenched her silver teeth in anger. A long while later, she waved her sleeves and swiftly left this place with a few people. A moment later, 3 human figures arrived in the sky above the mountain forest where Xiao Yan's group had paused earlier in a manner as though they were chasing the stars and the moon. The expressions on the faces of the 3 of them solidified when their bodies rushed past the empty space. Their bodies instantly paused in the empty space. 3 pairs of eyes simultaneously landed on the empty ground below. With their powerful senses, they were able to clearly sense the auras of a couple of people who had paused in this place not long ago. Those auras were the people they were looking for. It is them. They should have left less than an hour ago. If it were not for the fact that our search area was too large, perhaps we would have already caught up with them. Haha, 4th brother, don't be impatient. Since they have just left not long ago, it will naturally not be difficult for us to find them. Continue to head north. I think that it will not be long before that group of people will meet us." Hearing this, the gray-robed old man on the left of the 3 people smiled faintly. His shriveled hand grabbed at the air. A seemingly empty air, which contained the aura of Xiao Yan and the rest, was caught in his palm. Immediately, his 5 fingers clenched and easily crushed it. From the beginning to the end, the leading old man did not open his mouth. His ruddy face was slightly raised. His gaze looked towards the distant sky, which was gradually dimming. For some unknown reason, there was some worry in his heart. Night was about to arrive. This would cause some trouble for their plan to chase. Although Bai Hua and the rest had just left not long ago, he faintly had a bad premonition in the bottom of his heart. Let's go. We will try our best to catch up with them before night falls. No more accidents must occur. With a low cry, the other two old men beside him immediately nodded heavily. Immediately, the three of them leaped once again, transforming into 3 rays of light that swiftly flew towards the northern sky with lightning-like speed. Night was about to arrive. In the sky above the vast mountain forest, Bai Hua was currently carrying Xiao Yan on her back, while the little fairy doctor and the rest closely followed behind. The group was doing their best to fly towards the northern sky. As they watched the gradually darkening sky, the emotions in their hearts did not relax. They were facing a Genesis Ancestor-level expert, and Night would not be able to provide them with much cover. If they were careless at such a time, it was extremely likely that they would end up cutting off their path forward. The sound of rushing wind continued to resound in everyone's ears. The emerald green mountain forest below gradually dimmed under the cold wind. The distant mountain peaks grew closer and closer, and then grew further and further. However, the sense of danger that lingered in everyone's hearts never disappeared. Xiao Yan continued to rely on medicinal pills to speed up his recovery. Over half of the Genesis Qi in the group's bodies had unknowingly been exhausted. Night descended and the entire world seemed to have become quiet. However, the group's mental state became increasingly tense. A dense sense of danger enveloped everyone's heads. This continued until a certain moment when Xiao Yan, who was on Bai Hua's back, suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. Under Xiao Yan's signal, the group stood on a certain mountain peak. Phew! After nearly a day of recuperation, the injuries within Xiao Yan's body had clearly recovered significantly. Even though this was the case, he was still unable to shake off the fact that he was still weak. The reason why he had led everyone to stop at this moment was naturally because of those 3 old fellows. By relying on his powerful spiritual strength, Xiao Yan had clearly discovered that the 3 experts from the Crossing Disaster Sect were less than 15 minutes away from them. If they were to continue in this manner, the final result would naturally be that they would not be able to escape. A couple of Origin Kings carrying a seriously injured Origin Emperor to face 3 experts of the Origin Zone class at the same time. That kind of result naturally went without saying. Xiao Yan rested for a moment on the mountain peak. Soon after, he once again gathered 3 types of heavenly flames in front of the stunned gazes of the few people around him. Even the seed flames were kneaded together. The few of them immediately understood what Xiao Yan wanted to do when they saw this familiar scene. He wanted to agglomerate the angry Buddha lotus flame. With their strength alone, they were naturally unable to stop the 3-source zone. However, if the angry Buddha lotus flame were to explode, the strength that it would create would naturally be able to stop them for a while. Their group would also be able to delay them for a while. Although the few people present were able to see through Xiao Yan's thoughts, the few of them involuntarily felt worried when they saw him taking such a risk. You are crazy. You have yet to recover from your serious injuries and do not have much strength left in your body. If you agglomerate the angry Buddha lotus flame, won't you be treating your life as a joke? Bai Hua and the little fairy doctor had grave expressions on their faces. They were just about to stop him when the situation in front of them no longer allowed them to intervene. They were naturally aware of how frightening a heavenly flame was. Once they failed to stop him, it was likely that Xiao Yan's current body would be instantly turned into ashes. Phew! Xiao Yan merely smiled in a comforting manner in the face of everyone's worry. His pale white face carried a warm smile, but it caused one to feel exhaustion. Putting aside the difficulty of continuously using such a high-class Do skill, just the exhaustion of one's Genesis Qi and spiritual strength was extremely great. If this continued, it was likely that Xiao Yan would end up with irreversible sequelae. However, the heavenly flames had already merged and there was naturally no possibility of stopping. Everything could only wait until the fire lotus was completely agglomerated. As the heavenly flame gradually gathered in Xiao Yan's hand, the 3 auras in the distant horizon grew closer and closer to Xiao Yan's group. In fact, the few of them had already faintly sensed the location of Xiao Yan's group. Haha, is it because they can't run, or are they simply waiting for death because they know that death is certain? High up in the sky, an old man could not help but reveal a sneer on his old face after discovering the location of Xiao Yan's group. Trying to escape alive from the pursuit of 3 origin sect experts was simply nonsense. Increase your speed and give chase. Be careful not to make any mistakes. The old man leading the trio involuntarily breathed a sigh of relief. However, he still cautioned the others in a cautious manner. His body jerked as he flew forward at an even faster speed. Chapter 13:17. Under the starry night sky, Xiao Yan's group was on top of a certain mountain peak. At this moment, a wash-basin-sized fire lotus floated in the air between Xiao Yan's palms. It slowly rotated as light as a feather. The curling flames leaped between the petals of the lotus like fairies. Beautiful sparks streaked across the sky, leaving behind numerous dark black lines. In the blink of an eye, everything returned to its original calm state. After the fire lotus was formed, 3 human figures swiftly rushed over from the southern horizon. Their lightning-like speed left behind 3 long afterimages in the sky. In the blink of an eye, they had already appeared 1,000 feet away from Xiao Yan's group. All of them wore cold expressions as they stared at Xiao Yan's group on the mountain peak. The light from the fire lotus illuminated the mountain peak where Xiao Yan's group was. The beautiful firelight also attracted the attention of the 3 origin sect experts. This was especially the case when they sensed the dangerous aura that spread from the fire lotus. Even with their cultivations, their expressions involuntarily changed. Is what Su Zhan said true? This brat is really able to agglomerate a frightening dose skill that can shake origin sect experts. However, is this really something an initial origin emperor can do? Even though the truth was placed in front of their eyes, this shocking reality still caused them to be unable to easily believe it. How could an origin emperor agglomerate such a powerful dose skill? What is he trying to do? Take us down with him? That's impossible. If the 3 of us were to join hands, it would be impossible for him to drag us down regardless of how powerful his strange dose skill is. After musing for a moment, the one to the left of the leading old man suddenly opened his mouth. His tone contained some cold mockery. However, what if his aim is not to take us down with him, but to use the energy produced by this dose skill to delay us? Once this dose skill is unleashed, even you and I will not be able to easily receive it. If they want to take advantage of this opportunity to flee, it will naturally be much safer with the energy ripples covering their auras. However, if the power of the dose skill is too great and implicates them, not only will they not be able to escape, they will also end up in a hopeless situation. In short, this is a risky move. If Xiao Yan could think of this, he would not be an exception. Although this method was indeed dangerous, he could not help but feel admiration for Xiao Yan's heroic spirit. Such courage was naturally something an extraordinary person would possess. If Xiao Yan were to grow in the future, he would definitely become a hero of his generation. Unfortunately, the moment Xiao Yan killed Tang Long, he had already stood on the opposite side of the Du AI sect. Regardless of what happened today, they would definitely kill Xiao Yan in order to eliminate any future trouble. Brat, are you really not afraid of death? Using such a method that is no different from suicide to stop us. Do you think you have any chance of escaping? The old man slowly stepped forward and looked at Xiao Yan, who was on the opposite cliff. At this time, the power that Xiao Yan possessed was enough to make them take him seriously. If I don't do this, I won't even have the slightest chance of escaping. Xiao Yan merely snorted disdainfully. The old man immediately scrunched his brows. He quietly circulated the Genesis Chi in his body and opened his mouth again. How about this? You disperse the fire lotus in your hand and return our sex saintus. This matter will be considered over and you and I won't disturb each other, okay? No. Xiao Yan merely smiled coldly when he heard this. His weak body forcefully stood up. His gaze was calm as it slowly swept over the 3 of them. His hand was gently pushed forward and the fire lotus lingering above his palm slowly drifted out at this moment. It gently drifted through the empty air and shot toward the 3 old men on the other side. Xiao Yan's expression changed when he saw this scene. Brat, you can't escape. The old man's expression instantly darkened when he saw the fire lotus shooting over. He cursed in a low voice. Soon after, he and the other 2 people beside him flipped their palms, and Genesis Chi immediately gushed out from their palms in preparation to meet the fire lotus. Explode! Xiao Yan ignored the old man's words. His body involuntarily softened after he sent out the fire lotus in his hand. Bai Hua by his side hurriedly helped him up. After which, The group hurriedly turned around and swiftly flew toward the north. In the next second, a thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind and an earth-shaking explosion suddenly resounded over the entire place. A dazzling white light shot out in all directions from the center of the explosion. The entire world instantly turned into daytime. A pair of golden-colored eyes watched the scene that had occurred in the dark night from the distant horizon. There was an unusual glint in those eyes. At the same time, under the cover of the white light, everything in the world gathered toward the center of the explosion uncontrollably. A frightening suction force covered the bodies of Bai Hua and the others. Just as it was about to pull their bodies into it, the Northern King within Xiao Yan's storage ring was suddenly released. It led the few of them away from the explosion area at a lightning-like speed. Bzz 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 bzz. The aftershock of the explosion swept apart, transforming into numerous storms. Even though they were a great distance away, it still caused Bai Hua's group to be extremely shocked. The few of them did not have the time to imagine the situation of the 3 experts from the Source Zone under the angry Buddha lotus flame. They used all their strength to borrow the opportunity that Xiao Yan had created to fly toward the north. In the sky, the storm formed by the Buddha's fiery lotus lasted for nearly an hour. The entire area was washed away by its power, and all traces of the group of 5 had completely disappeared. Although the 3 crossing disaster sect elders were not seriously injured, they were still somewhat injured by the fire lotus. When they looked at the scene before them again, the trio's old faces trembled in anger. They looked at each other, and when they saw each other's charred and miserable appearances, the anger in their hearts grew even greater. The dignified elders of the Origin sect and the crossing disaster sect had actually been reduced to such a miserable state by a brat from the borders of the continent. How could they endure such humiliation? As the anger in their hearts rose, their fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. If Xiao Yan appeared in front of them at this moment, the 3 of them would definitely tear him to shreds without any hesitation. However, they could no longer detect even the slightest trace of Xiao Yan's group's aura. They could only rely on the approximate direction that the group had left in to determine their target before continuing to head north. Su Zhan, who had withdrawn his aura, finally revealed himself on a certain mountain peak in the dark night after the 3 of them had left. He was somewhat shocked as he recalled the scene that he had seen earlier. He did not dare to imagine that Xiao Yan was actually able to display such a frightening Do technique in his seriously injured state. If Xiao Yan was allowed to continue growing, would he not become a formidable opponent in the future? The murderous intent in Su Zhan's eyes grew even denser when he thought of this. Chapter 13:18. The next day. In the sky above the boundless sea of trees, a few figures quickly flew past. The huge wind pressure formed huge gullies in the sea of trees below. The wind and waves swept across. In the blink of an eye, this group of people had already appeared at the edge of the sky. After a night of flying, the distance between Xiao Yan's group and the 3 Du Yi sect experts had widened once again. It was likely that the 3 Du Yi sect experts would not be able to catch up to them anytime soon. It was at this moment that Xiao Yan, who was on Bai Hua's back, suddenly experienced another abnormality. Xiao Yan's group was within a cave that had just been opened in the mountain forest. At this moment, the little fairy doctor and the others were looking at the pale-faced Xiao Yan, who was seated cross-legged on a green rock in front of them with worried expressions. No one had expected that the latter's cultivation would actually break through at such a moment. When the angry Buddha lotus flame had exploded 2 nights ago, the barrier between Xiao Yan and the 2-star Origin Emperor had also been broken. However, the situation had been urgent at the time, and the latter had endured the injuries in his body while suppressing the impending breakthrough in his body. However, it was only at dawn that the abnormality in Xiao Yan's body could no longer be suppressed. The group had no choice but to temporarily open up a cave for Xiao Yan to make a breakthrough. A breakthrough in cultivation was naturally a good thing, but the situation was different, and the risks one had to face were naturally different. If it was any other time, everyone would naturally be happy that Xiao Yan's cultivation had broken through. However, Xiao Yan's injuries had yet to heal, and his meridians had also been severely damaged from the 2 energy burdens. If he made a breakthrough now, his meridians would likely be unable to withstand the enormous amount of pure energy. If the damage was too severe, the damage would be irreparable. However, at this point, they could only hope that Xiao Yan would be able to make a breakthrough safely. On the boulder, as Xiao Yan circulated the qi in his body, wave after wave of energy suddenly appeared in the surrounding air. A huge tornado gathered around Xiao Yan's body, and Genesis qi surged towards Xiao Yan's body. His body immediately began to tremble uncontrollably, and his originally pale face looked even weaker. The mixed natural energy poured into Xiao Yan's body from the pores all over his body and entered the various chi paths immediately. It caused the weak chi paths to swell and distort. The expression on Xiao Yan's face also became slightly distorted. A painful expression was revealed between his brows. His body had suffered 2 consecutive impacts from enormous amounts of energy. At this moment, it was being poured in by this turbulent natural energy. The wild and violent nature that was contained within it caused the chi paths in his body to have difficulty enduring it. Soon after, however, the heavenly flame surged out and poured into his various chi paths, refining and absorbing the wild, violent energy. Only then did the entire process gradually stabilize. Xiao Yan's trembling body also recovered its calmness. By the side, the little fairy doctor's pretty eyes stared intently at Xiao Yan, who had calmed down. Her tightly clenched hands also relaxed slightly. Only then did the few people around quietly sigh in relief. Although the energy was relatively mixed, it was fortunate that the heavenly fire was able to reduce quite a bit of trouble. After being refined by the heavenly fire, the enormous amount of Genesis Chi was transformed into pure strands of energy, which were then refined and absorbed along the path of the flame mantra, ultimately converging into the Chi whirlpool. The aura in Xiao Yan's body was also gradually recovering. With the support of an endless supply of Genesis Chi, the injuries in Xiao Yan's body would recover even faster. This was good news for them. As time gradually flowed, the amount of Genesis Chi that flowed into the meridians in Xiao Yan's body gradually increased, causing the burden on his meridians to once again increase. Even with the continuous refinement of the heavenly flame, his meridians had already suffered significant damage. Even with the protection of the heavenly flame, the pressure brought about by the enormous amount of energy still gradually climbed. In fact, one could even see that the skin all over Xiao Yan's body had turned bright red as it continued to absorb and refine Genesis Chi. His muscles were stiff and his veins were exposed. The speed at which the Genesis Chi was absorbed and refined grew faster and faster. On the other side, the 3 elders from the Du Yi sect had once again given chase. The distance between the 2 parties swiftly shrunk. It was likely that they would once again catch up to this group in less than 4 hours. This time around, Xiao Yan was destined not to be able to agglomerate the angry Buddha lotus flame. Without any trump cards to protect them, the group would be powerless to fight back if they encountered the 3 Du Yi sect experts again. One could easily imagine the ending that awaited them. In the cave, Xiao Yan's situation was increasingly dangerous. His scarlet-red skin had become scalding hot, and waves of Genesis Chi uncontrollably overflowed from his pores all over his body. Tiny traces of blood also gradually appeared on Xiao Yan's body, and the aura in his body grew increasingly tyrannical. If he continued to endlessly absorb Genesis Chi, Xiao Yan's body would likely explode and die before the 3 Du Yi sect elders arrived. But it was also at this time that an old man wearing a brocade robe appeared outside the cave where the few of them were. A pair of golden eyes glanced slightly, and with his huge spiritual perception, he immediately noticed the abnormality in the cave. Heavenly fire, It seems that I can't be wrong. It's him. But why would he provoke the Du Yi sect for no reason? The old man softly laughed. He appeared to have recognized something. His body immediately flashed and transformed into a ray of light in the blink of an eye that shot into the mountain cave. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Bas! The sudden turn of events caused the expressions of Bai Hua and the rest to change drastically. However, before they could do anything, a powerful pressure abruptly descended above their heads. Their figures were instantly rooted to the spot, and even the Genesis Chi that was circulating in their bodies was forcibly suppressed. The hearts of the few of them were greatly shocked. Who would have thought that the other party would actually suddenly attack at such a moment? Before they could even clearly see the face of this person, the latter had already walked in front of Xiao Yan. His gaze sized up the person in front of him. TSK. What tyrannical physical strength. If it weren't for this, your body would have exploded under the impact of the energy. The old man gasped twice in surprise before slowly turning his head to look at Bai Hua and the others. When he saw the cold killing intent on their faces, he chuckled and said, "You guys aren't bad. To think that 2 of you possess the woeful poison body. It's no wonder that the Du Yi sect would come looking for you. But I don't have time to deal with you guys now." The old man immediately raised both of his hands after his laughter sounded. A thought passed through his mind and the surging spiritual strength between his brows surged out. At the same time, the seal between his fingers changed and a layer of glass-like golden light agglomerated and formed on the surface of Xiao Yan's body. Mysterious symbols gathered and transformed into a formation that covered Xiao Yan's entire body. The Heavenly Chief Formation. This is a grade 5 formation. It should be enough to stabilize your body for the time being. On account of that kid, I'll give this to you as well. After activating the formation, the old man hesitated for a moment before retrieving a purple pill from his storage ring. With a flip of his hand, he fed it to Xiao Yan. The moment the pill entered his body, a surge of medicinal power that was several times stronger than that of a grade 6 pill turned into a warm current that swiftly spread throughout Xiao Yan's body. The damaged meridians and bones in his body swiftly recovered under the effects of the medicinal power. The uncontrollable enormous Genesis Qi in Xiao Yan's body flowed into the Qi whirlpool as the blaze art Qi swiftly circulated. Even his complexion recovered substantially in a short period of time. The effects of a grade 7 pill are indeed different. You'd better remember this debt and pay it back in the future. Upon seeing this, the old man smiled mockingly. With a thought, the pressure that enveloped Bai Hua and the rest stealthily faded. Chapter 1319. At a glance, one could only see lush greenery that stretched as far as the eye could see. Occasionally, a cool breeze would blow past, and giant verdant corridors would appear above the lush sea of trees. These corridors would spread from afar, before finally disappearing at the end of one's line of sight. It was a rather spectacular sight. Above the sea of trees was the azure sky. At this moment, a few figures were swiftly flying over from the empty sky. Their eagle-like sharp gazes carefully swept across the forest below. Although the dense forest was vast, everything within the mountain forest was clearly displayed in their minds thanks to their enormous spiritual perception. In particular, the few remaining weak auras at a certain location caused their minds to tremble. This continued until a certain moment, when their gazes peered through the gaps in the mountain forest and saw a cave that had just been excavated in a certain backlit mountain valley. Cold smiles simultaneously appeared from the corners of the trio's mouths. Let's see where you can run to now. Surround them. Do not let a single one of them leave this place alive. The two people beside him immediately nodded heavily at the old man's command. Their bodies moved, and the three figures swiftly descended. Each of them took up a corner and surrounded the cave below. Regardless of how great their ability was, it was impossible for this group of people to escape after being surrounded by 3 experts from the Source Sect. They also believed that with Xiao Yan's seriously injured body, it was impossible for him to create a second fire lotus like the one he had created the last time. However, at the same time that these 3 old men descended, the sound of footsteps also sounded within the dimly lit mountain cave. As the 3 of them looked over, 5 human figures appeared in their eyes. The person leading them was undoubtedly Xiao Yan. At this moment, he had borrowed the medicinal strength of the Tier 7 medicinal pill. Although he did not dare to say that he had completely recovered from the injuries on his body, he was still mostly healed. Additionally, there was an unceasing amount of medicinal strength within his body that was healing his injured body. His entire condition was naturally much better. His originally bloodless face had once again recovered a sleek redness. Even the aura of his entire person had been raised by a lot. At this moment, Xiao Yan had already become a 2-star origin emperor. The few of them stepped out of the cave in unison. Their dense eyes had already landed on the 3 Du Yi Sect's elders. When the 3 of them on the other side saw Xiao Yan, who was brimming with energy at this moment, the muscles on their faces involuntarily twitched. The frightening scene when the fire lotus exploded was still vivid in their eyes. Now that Xiao Yan had recovered to such an extent, once he agglomerated another fire lotus, would it not, fortunately, when the trio saw that there was no fire lotus between Xiao Yan's hands, the tensed emotions in their hearts relaxed a little. Immediately, a chilling intent surged in their eyes as they looked at the 5 people in front of them. Brat, let's see how you will escape from our hands this time. With a low cry, the bodies of the 3 people in front of him suddenly shook. A vast and mighty force and pressure immediately swept out from the bodies of the 3 people, shaking the surrounding mountain forest until it shook. However, the expressions of Xiao Yan's group did not change at this moment. Xiao Yan coldly smiled as he sensed the frightening force and pressure that swiftly spread around him. His lips parted slightly as he said with a faint smile, "Don't worry. Elder, please." Just as his voice sounded, a powerful aura that was not inferior to the three people in front of him instantly surged out from within the cave, blocking the auras of the three people outside. The gazes of the three people also changed abruptly at this moment. This is Source Sect. Who's sneaking around? Come out and speak if you have the ability. The expression of the old man in the lead sank. He had never expected that a mysterious Source Sect expert would suddenly appear at such a time. In this way, it would be much more troublesome for them to capture Xiao Yan and the rest. Fortunately, from the aura, the other party was only a single Source Sect expert. Even though there was some pressure, it was still within a tolerable range. Ha ha ha, you say that I'm sneaking around? Compared to you incomparably disgusting fellows, this old man is much more open and above board. At the very least, my heavenly cloud villa will not sacrifice a living person. Unlike you, who won't even let off your own little saintess. After so many years, you're actually still dreaming of such wishful thinking. It was also at this moment that a loud laughter that contained ridicule was suddenly emitted from within the cave. Soon after, an old man wearing a cloud brocade robe appeared in front of Xiao Yan's group. His face was filled with disdain as he looked at the three people in front of him. It's you, Luo Hao. The expressions of the three Crossing Disaster Sect elders immediately changed drastically when they saw the person before them. As they cried out involuntarily, their expressions simultaneously turned grave. Luo Hao, the Deputy Villamaster of Heavenly Cloud Villa. He was a 6-star Source Sect expert. Due to his 7 brothers, they were also known as the 7 heroes of the Luo clan in the Central Region. They usually guarded the northern region of the Central Region and rarely showed themselves. Luo Hao, who stood before them, was the 3rd brother. Although Luo Hao was by himself, the 3 of them naturally knew very well that every single one of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan possessed extremely great battle prowess. This was not because of how great their cultivation was, but because they were all powerful formation masters. Their understanding of formations was probably the best on the continent. The Heavenly Cloud Villa was the only powerful organization on the continent that used formations as a legacy. With the strength of their formation masters, any one of them could easily fight against 2 experts of the same level. If they used their full strength, even the 3 of them might not be able to take down Luo Hao. As they thought about this, the expressions on the old faces of the 3 became increasingly ugly. Who would have thought that they would meet the people from the Heavenly Cloud Villa at such a time? The 4 big forces were originally at odds with each other, and there was no lack of private fights. Now that they had met, it was likely that today's matter would not be resolved so easily. Luo Hao, you want to interfere with the matters of my Crossing Disaster Sect? After a while, the face of the old man in the lead sank as he spoke with a sinister tone. Heh, so what if I interfere? This old man doesn't find it troublesome to deal with the 3 of you. Luo Hao chuckled upon hearing this, but did not take it to heart. He did not have a good impression of this group of people in front of him. Furthermore, Xiao Yan had some relationship with Luo Jin. By doing this, he could save Xiao Yan and his group, and also dampen their arrogance. Why not? Luo Hao, don't be too arrogant. Although the 7 heroes of the Luo clan have some reputation in the Central Region, your Heavenly Cloud Villa is just a group of origin sections. If the sect master of my Crossing Disaster Sect personally comes, I'm afraid that you won't be able to bear the consequences. You mean that my Heavenly Cloud Villa is afraid of you? So what if you're a Origin Venerate? If you think that my Heavenly Cloud Villa is easy to bully, then feel free to come. Others may be afraid of your Crossing Disaster Sect, but my Heavenly Cloud Villa is not. Luo Hao's cold shout was heard the moment the former's words faded. The sinister intent in his words caused the faces of the 3 people to turn increasingly ugly. Heavenly Cloud Villa naturally had its own foundation since it was able to become one of the 4 great factions. Wanting to rely on their own Origin Venerate experts to scare off the latter was a little too naive. While the faces of the 3 Origin Sect experts darkened, Luo Hao once again sneered and continued. Su Shuang with me here today, you are destined not to be able to take these brats away. If you still want to stay, I don't mind making the Crossing Disaster Sect lose 3 elders. The emotions of the 3 of them immediately shook when these words were uttered. They had already barged into the territory of the Heavenly Cloud Villa in the middle of the night yesterday. If they were to be trapped here by Luo Hao at this moment, it was likely that the situation would be even more disadvantageous for them should the other experts from the Heavenly Cloud Villa be summoned. Su Shuang bitterly clenched her teeth after thinking and struggling in this manner for a while. Her vicious gaze slowly swept over Xiao Yan's group. Finally, it paused on Luo Hao. Only then did she lead the other two people beside her and suddenly turn around before swiftly flying toward the southern sky. Chapter 13:20. The next day. Under Luo Hao's lead, Xiao Yan's group finally arrived safely at the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Even though the journey was a little dangerous, they were fortunately safe and sound. In particular, Xiao Yan's cultivation had successfully broken through to the level of a 2-star origin emperor. This was a joyous matter. When they arrived at the Heavenly Cloud Villa, the scene in front of them was very different from what Xiao Yan had imagined. The so-called Heavenly Cloud Villa was not really a huge villa. Instead, it was a strangely built and majestic ancient city. This entire city was where the Heavenly Cloud Villa was located. The ancient city walls that extended to the end of one's sight, the strange stone towers that towered into the clouds, and the mysterious talismans that could be seen everywhere. All of these explained the mystery of this city to Xiao Yan's group. Moreover, this was only the scene that they could see from outside the city. This city did not have a specific city gate. One could only enter through a formation. Otherwise, one would be blocked outside by the formation that covered the sky above the city. Fortunately, with Luo Hao's lead, this group was able to save a lot of trouble. After entering the city, the various buildings of different heights opened their eyes. Compared to other places, the Heavenly Cloud Villa was more like an independent world. Everyone's eyes were filled with a dazzling golden color. Even the clothes that the majority of the people were wearing were completely covered in gold. Gold-colored undergarments stood in various parts of the city like flags. Between the streets and alleys, there would occasionally be gold-colored light gathering, transforming into many mysterious formations. This is really a world of formations. Seeing the formations that floated in all directions, Xiao Yan's group could not help but reveal a surprised expression in their eyes. Formation masters, who were rarely seen in the outside world, could be seen everywhere in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Compared to other places, this place was more like a paradise for formation masters. Haha, my Heavenly Cloud Villa started with formations. Formations have been passed down from generation to generation. Most of the clan members are also formation masters. We do have some reputation in the middle region. Unfortunately, we are far inferior to the Pill Tower. Luo Hao chuckled, but his words were filled with some regret. They were both miracles created by spiritual strength, but alchemists were able to receive the respect and admiration of the entire continent. However, the fame of array masters was far inferior. In this regard, Xiao Yan could only sigh helplessly. When he was in Donghua City, Zhongli had also expressed his feelings about this. However, the reality was like this, and there was nothing he could do. They could only hope that in the future, the Way of Matrices would also be able to win a place in this vast continent. Under Luo Hao's lead, the group arrived at the deepest part of the city. There was indeed a magnificent manor there. Then, they saw a few higher-ups of Tianyun Mountain. Among them, there was a middle-aged man, 2 old men, and Luo Ao. A respectful smile immediately appeared on Xiao Yan's face when he saw Luo Ao again. It was his first time in the middle region, and he had finally met a familiar face. His tensed nerves finally relaxed completely. He owed Luo Ao a lot, and now that he saw the former again, he naturally could not help but praise him. Origin Emperor? How did you go from Returnance to Origin Emperor in just 3 years? Surprise involuntarily appeared on Luo Ao's old face when he sensed the dense aura from Xiao Yan's body. Luo Jin had already told him about Xiao Yan when he returned to the clan over 3 years ago. He had already felt extremely surprised when he learned that Xiao Yan's cultivation had already reached the Returnance realm. However, he had never expected Xiao Yan's cultivation to have already reached the Origin King level. The other old man and the middle-aged man were shocked when they heard Luo Ao's words. In just over 3 years, he had gone from Returnance to Origin Emperor. His cultivation speed was just a little too terrifying. Even Luo Hao, who had traveled with Xiao Yan's group on this day, had a similar change in expression when he heard these words. Luo Ao's words were really a little shocking. Xiao Yan could only smile awkwardly in response. He bowed towards Luo Ao and said politely, "I'm just a junior. I was only lucky enough to break through thanks to some fortuitous encounters and cultivation methods." Only then did the people present calm down slightly. It would have been fine if he had relied on fortuitous encounters and cultivation methods, but if he had really relied on his talent to reach this level, Going from Returnants to Origin King in just 3 short years was just far too terrifying. Whether it's talent or fortuitous encounters, since Xiao Yan has already become an Origin Emperor, you obviously deserve it. Immediately, the middle-aged man among the few of them took a step forward and spoke to Xiao Yan with a warm smile on his face. Hearing this, Xiao Yan hurriedly bowed and replied at the same time. May I ask who senior is? I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Luo Cheng, the Villa Master of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. I'm also Luo Jin's father. This is Luo Xiong, the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. There should be no need for me to introduce Luo Hao. You must have gotten to know each other on the way here. Luo Cheng smiled as he glanced around the group. When Xiao Yan heard that, his expression could not help but change. He had obviously guessed Luo Cheng's identity long ago. It was not difficult to guess the identity of a middle-aged man who could stand with these people. As for Luo Xiong, Xiao Yan had learned a few things about the Heavenly Cloud Villa from Luo Hao along the way. The so-called 7 heroes of the Luo clan had left a deep impression on him. Luo Xiong was the leader of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan. At the same time, he was the person with the greatest cultivation. Xiao Yan had never imagined that the leader of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan would actually appear in front of him. It was indeed a little surprising. It was said that every single one of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan had reached the level of a source ancestor. Furthermore, there was only a difference of 1 star between each of them. The leader, Luo Xiong, was an 8-star source ancestor. Luo Hao was a 6-star source ancestor and was ranked 3rd. Luo Ao was ranked 5th and was a 4-star source ancestor. These people were the strongest trump cards of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Although their cultivations were below the level of a source venerate, their attainments in the Tao of formations were unparalleled in the entire continent. If they worked together, they could even put up a fight against a source venerate. This was also the reason why Luo Hao had not been afraid of Su Shuang's threats the day before. Just as the few of them were chatting and laughing, a white-clothed figure swiftly flew over from the depths of the manor. His figure swiftly flew over the top of the buildings. Although it was somewhat rude, he arrived in front of this group of people in the blink of an eye. Looking at this figure, who else could it be other than Luo Jin? Chapter 1321. Heavenly Cloud Villa, Villa Master Luo Cheng, 1st Elder Luo Xiong, 3rd Elder Luo Hao and 5th Elder Luo Ao were all present in the discussion hall. Xiao Yan and the rest were led by Luo Jin to arrange their accommodations. In the hall, Luo Hao roughly explained everything that had happened before and after they had met Xiao Yan and the rest. The expressions of everyone present could not help but change when they heard this. Woeful poison body? The legendary holy maiden of the Du-Yi sect? Didn't she disappear without a trace long ago? Why is she by Xiao Yan's side? Luo Cheng frowned. He had clearly sensed the seriousness of this matter. Now is not the time to investigate this. What we should be thinking about is whether these people should leave or stay. The importance of the woeful poison body to the Du-Yi sect goes without saying. Their sect master Wu Du wants to use the woeful poison body to find the first sect master's hidden inheritance. Over the years, they have sent out a lot of manpower and resources to find the woeful poison body. Since these people are now in our Heavenly Cloud Villa, it won't be long before Wu Du personally comes to ask for them. Once he appears, this matter will be even more difficult to resolve. Luo Xiong, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly opened his mouth. The words that came out of his mouth caused the expressions of everyone present to change. Wu Du, the sect master of the Du-Yi sect, was an expert at the level of a source venerate. Even in the entire continent, he was a top expert. Although the Heavenly Cloud Villa did not fear a source venerate, they did not wish to truly fight with him. The strength of a source venerate expert was enough to make the entire Heavenly Cloud Villa take him seriously. Although the 7 heroes of the Luo clan could even fight against a source venerate expert if they joined forces, what should they do if the other party used the strength of an entire sect? After all, a source sect was still a source sect. The gap between them and a source venerate expert could not be made up by numbers alone. In that case, should we ask them to leave? Luo Cheng knit his brows. After meeting them earlier, he could tell that Xiao Yan's group was extraordinary. Other than Xiao Yan's training talent, the heavenly flame that he possessed, and the 2 woeful poison bodies, that young man called by Hua also caused him to feel that she was extremely mysterious. Even with his eyesight, he was unable to see anything about the latter's constitution. If one were to talk about someone who could be considered ordinary, it was likely that only that little girl called Li Bingrue would be considered ordinary. However, if one were to discuss her training talent, it was likely that she would not be inferior to some of the monsters in the middle region. Luo Cheng and Luo Cheng could naturally tell that this group had great potential. If they could form a good relationship with them, it would definitely be beneficial to the Heavenly Cloud Manor once they matured. However, the problem they were facing now was that the Du Yi sect would definitely not allow Xiao Yan's group to live peacefully. From Xiao Yan's attitude, it was clearly impossible for him to hand over the woeful poison body. Both parties had already become mortal enemies. If they insisted on helping Xiao Yan's group, it would be equivalent to openly declaring war on the Du Yi sect. It was difficult to weigh the pros and cons involved. Clan leader, first elder, I think that this is not appropriate. While they were hesitating, Luo Ao finally opened his mouth. As he spoke, everyone's gazes gathered on him. Luo Ao's gaze slowly swept across the people in front of him before he said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to let you go. First elder, all of us have witnessed Xiao Yan's talent and strength. Moreover, he also has a heavenly flame by his side. His future achievements are definitely not something that the Du Yi sect can compare with. Don't tell me that we are going to destroy a genius who is likely to become a great help to our Tianyun villa for the sake of the Du Yi sect, which is not on friendly terms with us." As soon as these words were spoken, the few people present couldn't help but pause. Luo Cheng opened his mouth slightly but didn't say anything. Luo Xiong fell silent as he continued to ponder in his heart. As the first elder of Heavenly Cloud Manor and the strongest person in the clan, he had no choice but to prioritize the clan first. Although Heavenly Cloud Manor was also one of the four great forces, everyone knew that Heavenly Cloud Manor was just barely squeezed into the ranks. Without the support of a source venerate, the clan's strength couldn't be compared to the other forces. If it weren't for the numerous arrays and the reputation of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, Heavenly Cloud Manor would have long been excluded from the four great forces. Now, if they were to start a war with the Du Yi sect for Xiao Yan, what awaited them would most likely be destruction. But then again, Luo Ao's words weren't without reason. They had seen the potential of Xiao Yan's group. If Heavenly Cloud Manor could obtain their help, when they truly grew up in the future, their status among the four great forces would definitely rise. However, the current situation forced them to face reality first. Sigh. After a long time, Luo Xiong sighed deeply. His pair of turbid old eyes turned to Luo Cheng, who was sitting on the main seat, and slowly said, "Patriarch, this matter is still up to you to decide. After all, you are the patriarch and also the manor lord. Everything will still have to listen to you." Seeing that the problem was once again thrown to him, Luo Cheng's mood couldn't help but become a little solemn. He could also understand Luo Xiong's worries. However, Luo Ao's words weren't wrong. Now, he had to choose one of the two, and this answer might involve his entire Heavenly Cloud Manor. Sigh. Fifth elder, I'm sorry. I also know that little friend Xiao Yan has a promising future. However, Heavenly Cloud Manor can no longer take a huge blow. Once. Patriarch, you don't have to blame yourself. This old man understands your intentions. However, they are after all guests from afar. Let them stay for 2 more days. Once the time is up, this old man will naturally explain this matter to them. Before Luo Cheng's voice faded, Luo Ao had already stood up and smiled at the former. After speaking, he slowly walked out of the hall. Behind him, Luo Cheng and the other two looked at Luo Ao's somewhat lonely back. For a time, their hearts couldn't help but become a little heavy. They could tell that Luo Ao truly valued Xiao Yan. Even though they were similarly shocked by Xiao Yan's talent, the reality was as such. Even if Luo Cheng agreed to disregard the entire clan for the sake of a member of the younger generation with an unknown future, it was likely that the other members of the clan would not be willing to do so. However, immediately after Luo Ao's footsteps arrived at the entrance of the hall, just as he was about to open the door and walk out, the door was suddenly opened by a pair of hands from the outside. Immediately, an old man hurriedly stepped in from the outside. The moment he entered, his gaze quickly swept across Luo Ao and stopped him. After which, he looked towards the few people in the depths of the hall. With a solemn expression, he urgently said, "Manor Lord, First Elder, something has happened." Chapter 1322. While Luo Ao's group entered the meeting hall, Luo Jin led Xiao Yan's group to another part of the manor. After arranging accommodations for them, he led them on a tour around the manor. Xiao Yan was similarly curious about this place, which was a true holy ground in the eyes of a formation master. Those mysterious formations were quite unique. Although there were some similarities when compared to alchemy, there were also great differences. Both of them had their own advantages. If one were to really talk about it, it was difficult to tell which was better. However, Xiao Yan was certain that since the formation could exist in this world, it definitely had its own unique logic. Although alchemists were currently more prevalent on the continent, it was likely that there would come a day when it would be the turn of a formation master to shine in this vast continent. The group followed Luo Jin and walked in a relaxed and unrestrained manner within the Heavenly Cloud Manor. While they were chatting, Xiao Yan suspiciously discovered that Luo Jin's eyes seemed to have paused on Li Bingrui, who was beside Lian Er, ever since they had met. Even during their conversation earlier, he had purposely led the topic to the latter. This caused Xiao Yan to secretly smile in a mocking manner. He immediately understood something in his heart. Xiao Yan's eyes swept between Luo Jin and Li Bingrui. He smiled softly and shook his head. Immediately, he continued to walk forward along the small path in the garden. However, he did not notice that the little fairy doctor beside him was also using her pretty eyes, which were filled with gentleness, to look at him as he strode forward. She paused for a moment before hurriedly following behind him. Behind them, Bai Hua glanced at Lian Er, whose small face was filled with curiosity. Her large hand gently rubbed the latter's small head as the two of them slowly followed behind. The group strolled around the manor while chatting about many matters related to the middle region. Of course, most of the time, it was Luo Jin who explained the general information about the various large factions in the middle region. Amongst them, the Xiao clan was naturally the first thing that Xiao Yan needed to understand. As a super faction in the middle region and one of the three great clans, the Xiao clan naturally had a powerful foundation. Its strength far exceeded the four great clans. It was rumored that the Xiao clan had existed for the longest time among the three great clans. At its peak, the Xiao clan was comparable to the current Heavenly Source sect and Ghost Gate. However, for some unknown reason, it gradually declined over the long river of time. Even so, there was no need to doubt the strength of the Xiao clan. After understanding this, Xiao Yan could not help but lower his head and ponder. Even though he knew that the Xiao clan did not have any kinship with him, Xiao Xian was still there after all, and he was somewhat touched. However, at the same time, he could not help but worry about Xiao Xian's safety. However, at this moment, the sight in front of Xiao Yan's eyes flashed. His footsteps, which were just about to take a step forward, suddenly paused. At the same time, he raised his head and looked at the large black stone tablet standing in front of him with a surprised expression. Only at this moment did Xiao Yan notice that his group had unknowingly arrived at a square. This large stone tablet in front of him was the only decoration on this square. Ha! Upon seeing this, Xiao Yan could not help but take 2 steps back. Only then did he clearly see the huge stone tablet in front of him. At the same time, Luo Jin, who was not far behind him, followed closely behind with a smile. This stone tablet is... Xiao Yan's gaze swept over the stone tablet. Only then did his gaze turn to Luo Jin by the side. His face was filled with doubt as he asked. Upon hearing this, the latter pursed his lips and smiled. He did not hide anything. His gaze swept across the stone tablet from bottom to top, and he slowly said, "This is the Heavenly Cloud's sacred weapon list." It is said that an ancestor of the Luo family once created this list in his spare time. It records the 10 most unique weapons on the continent. Although they are not very useful, they were left behind by our ancestor. That is why we put them here. Upon mentioning the ancestor of the Luo clan, Luo Jin's face could not help but reveal a proud expression. However, at the end of his words, there was a hint of mockery and helplessness. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded his head in surprise. At the same time, his gaze once again swept across the stone tablet. Indeed, from top to bottom, the stone tablet was engraved with words from 1 to 10. Among them, the 4th, 7th, 8th and 9th positions were painted with a golden glazed luster. Among them, the 4th position was called the Phoenix Lock Spear, the 7th was called the Serene Orchid Sword, the 8th was called the Ancient Blood Axe, and the 9th was called the Lightning Spear. The remaining positions were empty. This Phoenix Lock Spear. I'm afraid that it belongs to the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe? Upon seeing the name of the Phoenix Lock Spear on the 4th position, Xiao Yan could not help but think of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe in his mind, even though he did not have any proof. That's right. The Phoenix Lock Spear does belong to the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. It is said that this weapon was created from the spine of a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, as well as the bloodline of an ancient demon phoenix. It has a great suppressive effect on the members of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Its additional battle strength is also extremely terrifying. Once it uses its full strength, it can even use the Phoenix Lock Spear to condense an ancient demon phoenix image. It is extremely frightening. It is a pity that I have never seen it before. Luo Jin smiled. Xiao Yan's gaze continued to move downwards, landing on the 7th position, the Serene Orchid Sword. The Serene Orchid Sword's owner is called Ouyang Yu. He is publicly acknowledged as the strongest person in the Ouyang clan. It is said that Ouyang Yu once used his sword to easily stop 3 Origin Venerables who went to the Ouyang clan to cause trouble. He even killed one of them. As for the other 2, one was seriously injured while the other escaped with a broken arm. Since then they have never appeared again. Ouyang Yu was crowned with the title of Serene Orchid Sword Saint because of that battle. Excess. Xiao Yan was not the only one who was shocked upon hearing these words. Even the faces of the few people beside him also revealed shocked expressions. This battle result could be described as frightening. He had fought against 3 Yuan Zun level experts alone without being defeated. He was even able to kill one of them. With such an outstanding battle result, this Ouyang Yu was likely a demon that was hard to meet even in 1,000 years. As for the other 2, Luo Jin had never heard of them. However, he did not doubt that the people who possessed those 2 weapons were definitely dragons and phoenixes amongst men. They were bound to be outstanding existences. However, whether or not he could meet them was another matter. While the few of them were laughing and chatting, Xiao Yan's expression suddenly changed. He subconsciously placed a hand on his storage ring. At this moment, he was surprised to discover that an item in his storage ring that he had not touched for many years was actually trembling slightly at this moment. At the same time, on the other side, Luo Ao, Luo Chang and the other upper echelons of the Heavenly Cloud Villa appeared in a secret room. At this very moment, a 10-inch white jade array disc was placed on an array platform in the middle of the room. Furthermore, one could clearly see that there was a palm-sized gap on this array disc. At this moment, the array disc was trembling and emitting bursts of intense golden light. Chapter 1323. In a secret room in Heavenly Cloud Villa, the upper echelons of Heavenly Cloud Villa were present. Their faces were extremely solemn as they looked at the scene that was unfolding before them. On the array platform, a broken array disc seemed to be attracted by something. It was emitting bursts of intense golden light and was shaking uncontrollably. This caused the atmosphere in the secret room to become extremely solemn. What happened? Why is the greater star plate acting strangely for no reason? Looking at the scene before him, Luo Xiong's face turned ugly. In all these years, he had never seen the array disc act in such a manner. This was a huge matter for his Heavenly Cloud Villa. We are not sure either. Originally, everything was normal. However, for some reason, the greater star plate suddenly went berserk. There was no warning at all. Hearing this, the few elders present could only helplessly shake their heads and sigh. That's right. Something like this has never happened before. Just now, as a precaution, we also carefully examined the array disc. However, we didn't find anything strange. It's just that the array disc itself seems to be somewhat out of control, as if it's being pulled by something. However, this aura is too special, so we can't trace it. After hesitating for a moment, another elder slowly spoke. However, the words that came out from his mouth caused the faces of Luo Chang and the others to change. What did you say? Attract? What in this world can attract the greatest star plate? Don't tell me it's that fragment. However, before Luo Cheng's voice sounded, Luo Xiong, Luo Hao and Luo Ao suddenly spoke out. They immediately thought of something in their hearts. At the same time, the expressions on their faces became fiery hot at this moment. The greater star plate was the treasure of Heavenly Cloud Villa. For so many years, half of the reason why Heavenly Cloud Villa could have such prestige and status in the central region was because of the greater star plate. Even the 7 heroes of Luo clan, who were famous outside, had to be attributed to the greater star plate. The greater star plate was an array disc that an ancestor of Heavenly Cloud Villa had spent his entire life to create. It was a grade 9 array disc and could be said to be the highest grade and most precious array disc in the continent. If it was fully activated, it could even fight against an Origin Saint expert. However, such a heaven-defying object had been destroyed by a villain. Although Heavenly Cloud Villa had tried their best to preserve it, they had lost a corner of the array disk. It was this missing corner that greatly reduced the power of the greater star plate. Even if it could be used now, the power of the array disk was only comparable to that of an Origin Saint expert. Even if Heavenly Cloud Villa had tried their best to preserve it, they had lost a corner of the array disk. And it was the greater star array disk of Heavenly Cloud Villa. And, however, the greater one-star plate, which had been immersed in this place for many years, suddenly had an unusual change today. This situation, in addition to the Elder's guess, caused Luo Xiong and the others to promptly associate it with the missing fragment of the formation plate. If he could find it and restore it, then the greater one-star plate would be able to regain its former glory, and the strength of the Heavenly Cloud Villa would naturally rise as well. Then, Heavenly Cloud Villa's position among the four great forces at the border of the central region would be completely stabilized. From then on, no one in the central region would dare to look down on Heavenly Cloud Villa. However, even though this was indeed the wish in his heart, where was that fragment now? Given Luo Xiong and the others' thoughts, they naturally thought of Xiao Yan's group in the blink of an eye. Immediately, other than Luo Ao, the other three people's expressions became a little strange. A moment ago, they were still discussing whether to ask Xiao Yan's group to leave Heavenly Cloud Villa. But in the blink of an eye, their thoughts had once again returned to this group. If they were not mistaken, the fragment of the array disk was indeed with Xiao Yan's group. In that case, the matter that had been decided previously now. Villa Master, First Elder, how do you think we should deal with this matter? Luo Ao mused for a moment before looking at Luo Cheng and Luo Xiong in front of him with a mocking expression. Now, this problem had once again returned to the two of them. It was still the same as before. However, this time around, the bargaining chip was in Xiao Yan's hands. The expressions on the faces of Luo Cheng's duo were a little unnatural when they heard this. They did not expect that fate in this world would actually be so coincidental. The thing that they had been searching for all this while actually existed in this group of people. Yet, they were still thinking of how to chase Xiao Yan's group out of the door earlier. It must be said that this was indeed a little ironic. Looks like our Heavenly Cloud Villa will protect Xiao Yan's group. In the end, Luo Xiong still smiled bitterly and nodded his head. When these words were spoken, it could be said that Luo Cheng's decision had been decided. The other elders present did not know much about Xiao Yan's group and were a little confused when they heard this. However, they were able to sense from these few people's words that trouble seemed to be about to happen in Heavenly Cloud Villa. At the same time on the other side, after some hesitation, Xiao Yan flipped his palm and took out the strange fragment of the array disk that was still buzzing and trembling from his storage ring. The palm-sized white jade fragment trembled slightly in Xiao Yan's palm. Xiao Yan's face was filled with suspicion. He remembered that he had obtained this item from Jin Yao in the western region many years ago. However, he had always placed it in his storage ring and did not pay much attention to it. He did not expect that there would suddenly be a change in Heavenly Cloud Villa many years later. Could it be because of Heavenly Cloud Villa? While they were doubtful, Luo Jin by the side could not help but move closer with a curious face. However, when he saw the fragment of the formation plate lying on Xiao Yan's palm at first glance, a shocked expression instantly surged into his eyes. Even his entire body had involuntarily stiffened. His eyes stared intently at the fragment of the formation plate in Xiao Yan's hand. The shock in his heart was not any less than Luo Xiong and the others. Why, do you recognize this item? Xiao Yan was involuntarily startled when he saw the stunned expression on Luo Jin's face. His words had just sounded when a couple of human figures appeared in the empty space in front of him. Xiao Yan raised his head and saw that it was Luo Ao's group. At this moment, their eyes were also glowing as they stared at the formation plate fragments in Xiao Yan's hand. The smile on their faces involuntarily widened. Ha 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 ha. I never would have thought that this item would actually fall into the hands of our young friend Xiao Yan. This is really fate making fools of us. Xiao Yan boy, can you let me take a look at the item in your hand? Luo Xiong roared with laughter. On the other hand, Luo Ao hurriedly turned his gaze back to Xiao Yan and asked politely. Seeing this, Xiao Yan did not hesitate and casually handed it over. Luo Ao stepped forward with a face full of gratitude and carefully took the fragment of the array disk from Xiao Yan's hand. Chapter 1324. At this moment, the upper echelons of the Heavenly Cloud Villa were gathered in front of the black stone tablet in the spacious and empty courtyard. Numerous pairs of eyes were gathered on the formation plate fragment in Luo Ao's hand. Their faces were filled with excitement and joy. Who could have imagined that the item that their heavenly cloud villa had been looking forward to for so many years would actually return to their hands in such a manner? The fragment of the array plate in Luo Ao's hand fit the gap on the greater 1-star plate. If it was repaired, then the greater 1-star plate would be truly complete. The power contained in a Tier 9 formation plate was self-evident. As long as this fragment is recovered, the greater 1-star plate will be completely complete. Then, Heavenly Cloud Villa will rise again. Looking at the fragment of the array plate that was close to him, Luo Xiong's face was filled with tears. The greater 1-star plate had been damaged for many years. Now, it could finally be repaired. Mr. Xiaoyan, may I know if this fragment of the array plate? After a long while, Luo Qing recovered and immediately looked at Xiaoyan. Although this fragment should have belonged to Heavenly Cloud Villa, it had fallen into the hands of Xiaoyan. From a certain point of view, it already belonged to Xiaoyan. Moreover, he was the one who brought it to Heavenly Cloud Villa. No matter what, he should first ask for Xiaoyan's permission. Hearing this, Xiaoyan smiled indifferently. He stroked his sleeves and said with a smile, "This is just a coincidence. Junior only obtained this by chance, and it is of no use to me. If Senior needs it, feel free to take it." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the upper echelons of Heavenly Cloud Villa changed slightly. Everyone could not help but open their mouths and a guilty expression flashed across their faces. Everyone present had heard about Xiaoyan and the others from Luo Cheng. Now that they saw Xiaoyan returning the fragment of the array plate to Heavenly Cloud Villa so easily, they could not help but feel guilty. After all, when Xiaoyan was so generous, their villa master was thinking of sending Xiaoyan and the others out of Heavenly Cloud Villa. Now, how could they not feel ashamed? If that is the case, thank you, Mr. Xiaoyan. After hesitating for a moment, Luo Qing actually bowed to Xiaoyan and cupped his hands together in front of everyone. Beside him, the others immediately bowed and cupped their hands together. Luo Ao was no exception. Besides Xiaoyan, Luo Jin's expression could not help but change when he saw this scene. He was about to bow to Xiaoyan, but when he turned around, Xiaoyan helped him up. To quickly cupped his hands together. And hurriedly cupped his hands. Of Luo Jin's expression. And Xiaoyan. I'm afraid that this junior is unable to accept such a great gift from all of you seniors. Senior Luo Hao had once saved this junior's life. Being able to escape from the evil clutches of my group is already extremely fortunate. This fragment of the array plate can be considered as my thanks. Haha, little friend Xiaoyan is too courteous. I believe that even if I was not present that day, with your fire lotus, you should be able to come out unscathed. Luo Hao laughed heartily when he heard this. His eyes glanced at Luo Ao. Luo Ao had guessed that the white light that covered the sky back then was Xiaoyan's angry Buddha fire lotus. Now that he thought about it, Xiaoyan's fighting strength was likely far greater than his cultivation. If Xiaoyan was able to make a breakthrough before the 3 great elders of the Du Yi sect arrived, the 3 of them would not be able to do anything to Xiaoyan's group even without him. Haha, Mr. Xiaoyan is really too humble. Everyone has been quite tired over the past few days. If you don't mind, you can rest assured and stay in my Heavenly Cloud Villa for the time being. As for the Du Yi sect, we will help you to stop them. It will not be too late for everyone to leave once everything is calm. What do you say? Luo Cheng's tone changed when he saw this. This time, he took the initiative to invite them. Moreover, his words had already made his stance clear. At the same time, the other people beside him also nodded their heads. Xiaoyan and the rest hurriedly bowed in gratitude when they saw this. A wave of hearty laughter immediately sounded in the square. Afterwards, Luo Cheng introduced the other elders to Xiaoyan and the rest. Those elders were also part of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan. The 7 heroes of the Luo clan were the eldest Luo Xiong, the 2nd Luo Lai, the 3rd Luo Hao, the 4th Luo Mian, the 5th Luo Ao, the 6th Luo Kuan and the 7th Luo Hua. The strongest amongst them was the eldest Luo Xiong, an 8-star Origin sect member. The 7th Luo Hua, also a Origin sect member. Although he was only a 2-star Origin sect member, he could not be underestimated. With these 7 people and their status as formation masters, they could be considered an extremely tyrannical faction even in the middle region. After getting to know the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, Xiaoyan and the rest had gained some knowledge. After a good chat, Luo Cheng and the rest hurriedly left with the array disc fragment. Xiao Yan and the rest looked at the sky. They did not expect that it was already evening. Only then did they return to their residence under Luo Jin's lead. Along the way, Luo Jin was filled with curiosity as he inquired about the origin of the array disc fragment. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, gave a vague answer. At the same time, Luo Cheng and the rest had once again returned to the secret room. As the array disc fragment in their hands and the greater one star plate grew closer, the abnormal activity between the two became increasingly intense. There was even a faint energy fluctuation surging out from the array disc. Luo Cheng and the rest were similarly astonished by this scene. Ever since the array disc was created, it had been controlled by a person. The energy within the array disc was also centered around the person controlling the array disc. However, the array disc before their eyes could actually trigger an abnormal energy fluctuation on its own. This was truly an eye-opener for them. However, this also showed them how powerful the greater one-star plate was. As a rank 9 array disc, it was naturally different from the rest. Buzz! When the array disc fragment approached the gap on the greater one-star plate, a sparkling golden light surged out from it. It merged the damaged area between the two. After which, the entire array disc and the fragment did not need anyone to control it. The array disc slowly floated into the air. Waves of intense golden light surged out from within it. The dazzling light connected the two together. Even Luo Cheng and the rest could not help but squint their eyes. Boom! Until a certain moment, when the fragment of the disc array and the greater one astrolabe were completely reunited, a dazzling beam of light suddenly shot up into the sky, and with a buzzing sound, it entered the huge formation cover that shrouded the entire heavenly cloud villa. The invisible formation cover suddenly surged at this moment, and a huge circle of sparkling golden energy quickly spread out until it enveloped the entire heavenly cloud villa. Almost at the same time that the greater one astrolabe was completely restored, on the square in the manor, on the huge black stone tablet, the fifth stone tablet that was originally empty, at this moment, a burst of golden light slowly lingered and appeared. At a glance, the words Greater One Astrolabe were written on it. 5th place on the Heavenly Cloud Saint Weapon Ranking. Greater One Star Plate. Chapter 1325. The next day, an uproar quickly spread through Heavenly Cloud Villa. The news of the Greater Star Plate appearing in the 5th place of the Heavenly Cloud Saint Weapon list shocked everyone in Heavenly Cloud Villa. At the same time they were ecstatic. Even Sword Saint Yolan's Yulon sword was only ranked 7th on the Heavenly Cloud Saint Weapon list. However, Heavenly Cloud Villa was able to obtain the 5th place with the Greater Star Plate. This was not only a sign of Heavenly Cloud Villa's bright future, but it was also a kind of encouragement for all the array masters. Most of the people in the Heavenly Cloud Villa were unaware of why the Great First Star Plate had suddenly appeared on the Heavenly Cloud Sacred Weapon ranking. Those who were aware of this matter felt even more grateful to Xiao Yan in their hearts, other than being pleasantly surprised. The Great Single Star Plate had ascended the Heavenly Cloud Sacred Weapon ranking. This ranking might not be of any concern, but it was able to motivate the other people in the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Quite a number of formation masters had even broken through because of it. This was extremely good news regardless of whether it was an individual or the Heavenly Cloud Villa. However, at the end of the day, the reason for all of this was attributed to Xiao Yan. The Heavenly Cloud Villa would be in an uproar for the entire day and even for the next period of time. Apart from some of the elders in the villa who were relatively calm, even some of the stewards were laughing heartily all day long. It was enough to show how excited they were. Somewhere in the manor, in a small courtyard, Luo Ao was leisurely lying on a chair with a teapot in his hand. His old eyes were slightly closed, and the dense branches and leaves on the treetops above his head shielded him from the glaring sunlight. Under the clear sky, the old man seemed to be in a leisurely mood. Outside the courtyard, Xiao Yan was accompanied by Luo Jin. Before they stepped in, they saw Luo Ao's leisurely appearance from afar. Although there was not much expression on his face, the two could imagine how happy the old man was at the moment. The Greater Star Plate had been restored, and it had risen to the 5th place on the Saint Weapon list. Its status had even surpassed the Yulon sword and was ranked below the Phoenix Lock Spear. Such a big event had caused the entire clan to be in an uproar. Luo Ao was naturally not an exception. However, he was barely able to hold on because of his status as an elder. Hee little guy, I really have to thank you this time. Luo Ao had already sensed Xiao Yan's arrival when the two entered the courtyard. He immediately sat up, placed the teapot in his hand to the side, and looked at Xiao Yan with a smile. Hee, senior. You're being too courteous with me. Speaking of which, Heavenly Cloud Manor saved our lives. Haha, looks like you're tired of hearing these words today. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's talk about what you're here for. Hearing this, Luo Ao smiled faintly and teased. The latter involuntarily sighed helplessly. With a flip of his hand, a huge black ruler landed in his hand. It was the heavy Xian ruler. Senior, do you still remember the agreement from that day? You said that you would naturally repair the dark heavy ruler for me once we arrive at the Central Territory. I'll have to rely on you for this matter. As he spoke, the expression on Xiao Yan's face gradually turned solemn. The heavy Xian ruler was different from other items. He would definitely be extremely strict on this matter. However, when Luo Ao saw the heavy Xian ruler, as well as Luo Jin, who was currently beside Xiao Yan, their expressions involuntarily changed. The grandfather and grandson duo looked at each other. Soon after, they spoke hesitantly. Little guy, I'll help you repair the heavy Xian ruler. However, before that, I have to remind you of something. The heavy Xian ruler in your hands might bring you trouble. Trouble. When these words were spoken, Xiao Yan's eyebrows immediately furrowed. The hand that held the heavy Xian ruler subconsciously tightened. The gaze that he used to stare at Luo Ao was filled with suspicion. He did not doubt Luo Ao's words. Instead, he was curious. The heavy Xian ruler was merely a weapon. What kind of trouble could it bring? Little guy, do you know where the heavy Xian ruler came from and who forged it? When he saw the doubtful expression on Xiao Yan's face, Luo Ao smiled slightly and looked at the latter with a teasing face as he asked. Xiao Yan was a little stunned at this question. The heavy Xian ruler was something that he had obtained from Yao Lao. Back then, he had only heard from Yao Lao that he had obtained it by chance in an ancient god mansion. He did not know anything else. He was even more confused as to why Luo Ao would ask such a question. The heavy Xian ruler was once forged by an ancestor of my Luo clan. Other than studying formations, my Luo clan's ancestor also studied the art of weapon refinement. This heavy Xian ruler was forged by an ancestor of the Luo clan. There was another one that was forged at the same time. Therefore, the heavy Xian ruler in your hands is not the only one. When these words were spoken, Xiao Yan's heart was immediately overwhelmed with shock. This information could be considered shocking to him. He did not expect that the heavy Xian ruler was forged by an ancestor of the Luo clan. Moreover, it was split into two. This was simply unbelievable. At the same time, however, there was something that Xiao Yan was curious about. Since the heavy Xian ruler was forged by an ancestor of the Luo clan, why would it appear in the Doqi continent? Luo Ao did not explain. Instead, he continued to speak. Although the two giant rulers are similar in appearance, their quality is completely different. The heavy Xian ruler relied on flaming meteorite mysterious metal to forge it. It is hard and heavy, and has the effect of condensing Do Qi and Genesis Qi. The other is called the mysterious jade ruler and is formed from heavenly mysterious jade. It is said that once the two giant rulers are merged, they will become indestructible. The mysterious jade ruler is currently in the hands of a younger generation member of the Bai clan, one of the three great clans. It is said that that fellow also values his mysterious jade ruler very highly. When Luo Ao's words sounded, Xiao Yan finally understood that the so-called trouble was actually the owner of the other mysterious jade ruler. In that case, the heavy Xian ruler in his hands and the mysterious jade ruler in that person's hands would likely clash sooner or later. The thing that truly troubled Xiao Yan was that the owner of the ruler was a member of one of the three great clans, the Bai clan. Currently, Xiao Yan did not truly understand the Xiao clan in the central region, much less trust them. If a conflict arose between him and the Bai clan because of the heavy Xian ruler in the future, everything would be difficult to handle. The Bai clan was one of the three great clans and its strength was not inferior to the Xiao clan. If the Xiao clan rejected him in order to avoid trouble, it would be fine if he faced them alone. However, it was likely that he would implicate the little fairy doctor and the rest, or even Xiao Xian. However, before Xiao Yan could fully consider the situation in his heart, Luo Ao's following words caused him to be stunned. Chapter 13:26. Other than the uniqueness of these two rulers, even if you obtain the heavy Xian ruler and the mysterious jade ruler at the same time, it will not be an easy task to merge them into one. Luo Ao slowly spoke. Xiao Yan lifted his eyebrows somewhat curiously. If he wanted to merge them, it was likely that given the methods of the Heavenly Cloud Villa and the Heavenly Flame within his body, it should not be a difficult task. Don't get your hopes up too early. Although you possess the Heavenly Flame, it is completely useless for these two rulers. If you forcefully merge them, it will instead destroy them. In the future, if you are able to obtain the mysterious Jade Ruler, you will have to make a trip to the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe before you merge them. Luo Ao was clearly aware of the guess in Xiao Yan's heart. However, when these words left his mouth, the expression on Xiao Yan's face involuntarily changed. His mouth suddenly exclaimed, "Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe? Merging the Heavy Xian Ruler and the mysterious Jade Ruler actually involves the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe?" Xiao Yan did not have a good impression of this tribe. Moreover, he had once seriously injured the younger generation members of the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe when he was in the western region. It was likely that those fellows wished to kill him when they saw him. At this moment, Luo Ao had actually mentioned the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe to him. This instantly suppressed the raging fire within Xiao Yan's heart. The Bai tribe was originally very powerful. At this moment, another Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe had actually appeared. In this way, Xiao Yan would have to reconsider. If he wanted to merge the two mysterious rulers, not only would he have to offend the Bai tribe, he would also have to implicate the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe. This was not a simple matter. According to the records, there is a beast that has a unique flame. It is the flame that has been passed down for generations in the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe. It is known as the Nirvana Flame. Any Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe member who can experience the Nirvana Flame will be able to cleanse themselves of all impurities and become a favored child in one fell swoop. Moreover, their cultivation will soar. Although I have never personally seen it, the might of the flame is likely not much inferior to a heavenly flame. This Nirvana Flame is the key to merging the two huge rulers. Only by experiencing the Nirvana Flame will the two huge rulers be perfectly merged. At that time, your Heavy Xian ruler will naturally no longer be destroyed by any external force. Luo Ao did not understand the emotions in Xiao Yan's heart. However, he was able to sense a trace of worry between the latter's brows. Hence, he naturally explained the Nirvana Flame in greater detail. When the latter heard Luo Ao's words, a light involuntarily flickered in his pitch-black eyes. What kind of beast flame was actually comparable to a heavenly flame? If he was able to absorb and refine it, his cultivation would likely be able to. As this thought flashed across his mind, Xiao Yan hurriedly regained his senses and suppressed this somewhat crazy thought. After all, that was the Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe's flame inheritance. Its importance was self-evident. It was difficult to even see it, let alone refine it. Moreover, it was unknown whether he could obtain the mysterious Jade Ruler. Hence, everything was naturally unknown. Thank you, old Luo, for informing me. When Xiao Yan regained his senses, he hurriedly cupped his hands toward Xiao Yan. The latter waved his hand indifferently and said, "This place is known in the central region. You don't have to thank me. However, you must remember what this old man reminded you previously. This time, this old man will help you repair the Heavy Xian ruler. However, you must be careful in the future. You must not let the Bai clan know about the existence of the Heavy Xian ruler. Otherwise, it will definitely bring you trouble." Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded his head solemnly. Soon after, he handed the giant ruler in his hand to Luo Ao. The latter slowly stood up and was about to receive the Heavy Xian ruler. However, he seemed to have thought of something and changed his words. "Also, your Luo Tian cauldron is not an ordinary item. This time, I will help you repair it. As for the rest, you should know." When the Luo Tian cauldron was mentioned, Xiao Yan's face revealed a grateful expression. He hurriedly took out the medicinal cauldron from his storage ring. The instant the huge medicinal cauldron landed on the ground, a heavy and overbearing aura instantly surged out from it. The huge green-gold medicinal cauldron stood in front of the three of them like a small pagoda. This heavy aura caused Luo Ao's turbid old eyes to reveal a fiery glow. Haha, who knows how many alchemists on the continent covet such a treasure. It has even caused quite a commotion because of it. However, in the end, it has landed in your hands. This is really surprising. After sighing, Xiao Yan could not help but smile embarrassedly. He exchanged glances with Luo Jin beside him. Luo Ao took the Heavy Xian ruler and the Luo Tian cauldron and walked towards the depths of the courtyard. At the same time, His leisurely voice sounded again. "Leave the items with me first. You can come and get them in 5 days." "Thank you, Elder." Hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded slightly. He once again bowed respectfully towards Luo Ao. Soon after, he took a deep breath. In his heart, he secretly recalled what Luo Ao had said earlier, especially regarding the Bai clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. His heart could not help but feel a little solemn. On the other hand, Luo Jin seemed to have seen through Xiao Yan's worries. He gently patted the former's shoulder with one hand. A moment later, they left the place together. On the way back, Luo Jin could not help but once again inquire about the matter regarding Li Bingrui. This time around, Xiao Yan finally could not help but laugh and scold him. After which, he roughly told the former about his relationship with Li Bingrui, as well as the matter that had happened in the depths of the fire maple forest. Of course, Xiao Yan did not tell him about the Red Lotus Hellfire. When Luo Jin found out that Li Bingrui actually had a teacher whose cultivation was above the source venerate level, a change finally appeared on his usually calm face for the first time. He appeared to be worried and also surprised. Xiao Yan merely laughed in response to this. He was just about to walk towards the little fairy doctor's group when the enormous formation that covered the sky above the heavenly cloud villa suddenly trembled intensely. The instant a buzzing sound was emitted, the entire formation shattered. Soon after, a dark and cold voice that was filled with majesty and overbearingness sounded. "Luo Hao, hand over the person that you have kidnapped." Bas. When these words sounded, an extremely frightening aura suddenly covered the sky above the heavenly cloud villa. The expressions of the upper echelons of the heavenly cloud villa within the villa changed drastically at this moment. Soon after, numerous human figures immediately rushed into the empty space. Their faces carried grave expressions as they looked at the sky to the south of the heavenly cloud villa. A middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous brocade robe was standing at that spot. This person was the sect leader of the Du-Yi sect, Wu Du. Chapter 1327. The upper echelon of the heavenly cloud villa was currently gathered in the sky above. Leading them was Luo Cheng and Luo Xiong, while the 7 heroes of the Luo clan were all present behind them. The group's gazes were cautiously fixed on the middle-aged man standing in the air, the Genesis chi in their bodies already circulating, constantly on guard against the person before them. In the city below, Xiao Yan and Luo Jin by his side watched the scene in the sky with solemn expressions. Xiao Yan's expression changed. He was about to step into the sky when he was hurriedly stopped by Luo Jin by his side. Luo Jin shook his head with a solemn expression. Only then did Xiao Yan clench his teeth and stop. At the same time, the group of people in the sky finally reacted. "Sect Master Wu, I wonder what is the meaning of this. If you want to enter my heavenly cloud villa, it is fine if you say hello, but to break my formation barrier, what kind of place do you think the heavenly cloud villa is?" Luo Cheng's expression darkened as he stared at Wu Du before him, his voice somewhat sinister. Luo Cheng was indeed worthy of being the master of the villa. Even in the face of an expert like Wu Du, his dignity and confidence remained unyielding. There were not many people on the continent who could do this. Humph. Enough nonsense. Hand over the person that Luo Hao took away. Otherwise, let alone breaking your formation barrier, I will even destroy your heavenly cloud villa. As Wu Du's cold cry rang out, a disdainful aura swept out once again. It turned into an invisible wave that charged towards Luo Cheng's group. Under the ripples of the powerful aura, even the invisible space violently surged at this moment. When the expressions of the people on the other side changed when they saw this scene, the 7 heroes of the Luo clan took a step forward in unison. As the powerful auras within their bodies erupted outwards, a layer of glass-like golden light enveloped the surface of their bodies. Under the control of the 7 of them, it merged into a huge barrier in front of them, blocking the powerful aura that was attacking them. "Sect Master Wu, aren't you underestimating my heavenly cloud villa too much? Although there is no origin venerate expert in my heavenly cloud villa, it is not a place where you can act so atrociously." As the golden light gathered, not only did it easily block Wu Du's aura, but it also carried a powerful aura as it rushed towards Wu Du. Under this aura, even with Wu Du's cultivation, he could not help but have a change in expression. He naturally knew of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, but he did not expect them to attack without any hesitation. It seemed that they were even more unreasonable than him. Everyone, this venerable self can admit defeat regarding the earlier matter. However, you must hand over those brats from the border of the continent. Not only did they secretly hide the Holy Lady of my Du-yi sect, but they even killed the third elder of my Du-yi sect, Tang Long. This venerable self must personally investigate this matter. As long as everyone hands over those few people today, this venerable self will compensate all of your heavenly cloud villa's losses. The moment Wu Du's words left his mouth, an uproar immediately rang out in the city below. The expressions of many heavenly cloud villa's disciples changed, and they found this news hard to believe. Tang Long was the Crossing Disaster sect's third elder, and he was rather famous among the four great powers. They naturally knew who he was. Tang Long was a Source Song-level powerhouse. Who could have killed such a powerhouse and even come to their heavenly cloud villa? Compared to the people in the city, Luo Cheng and the others in the sky were undoubtedly even more shocked. They had never imagined that Xiao Yan would be able to kill an elder of the Du-yi sect with his origin emperor cultivation, and a 4-star source level 1 at that. Once news of this spread, it would cause quite a stir even in the central region's border, let alone them. A moment later, Luo Cheng and the others finally recovered from their shock. After hearing Wu Du's words, the determination in their hearts toward Xiao Yan's group grew a little deeper. Just imagine how Xiao Yan was able to create such a shocking battle result with his origin emperor cultivation. Just how frightening would he be if he truly grew up in the future? Now that they thought about it, their choice was not wrong. May I know who Sect Master Wu is referring to? My heavenly cloud villa has never welcomed outsiders, and no outsiders have entered our villa recently. If Sect Master Wu believes that someone from my villa has offended you based on your words, you are really trying to add fuel to the fire. Luo Cheng chuckled icily, but his words instantly caused Wu Du's expression to turn ugly as the Genesis chi in his body began to surge violently. What a good adding fuel to the fire. Luo Cheng, do you really think that I am afraid of your heavenly cloud villa? I believe that both you and I are well aware of this matter. It's fine if you hand them over today, but if you don't, you will be making an enemy of my Du-yi sect. Think carefully. Hee, Sect Master Wu must be joking. Hasn't our relationship always been like this? As for the people you want, my villa doesn't have them, so what do you want us to do? Luo Cheng smiled faintly when he heard this. He had already expected such a situation. Since Wu Du had personally said it, there was naturally nothing to be surprised about. However, a ferocious expression surfaced on Wu Du's originally gloomy face after he heard these words. The aura within his body involuntarily churned as he spoke in an extremely deep voice. Luo Cheng, are you trying to start a war with my Du-yi sect? Sect Master Wu, whether we start a war or not is up to you, but what I can tell you is that if the Du-yi sect wants to start a war with my heavenly cloud villa, we will accept the challenge. You? Wu Du's words had just sounded when Luo Cheng's cold and domineering voice caused his face to turn green. The fury in his heart flourished even more. His entire body involuntarily trembled slightly. It was a long while later before he laughed out of extreme anger and said, Brother Luo Cheng, I will not let you off. Ha, good, very good. Luo Cheng, since you aren't willing to hand them over, then wait for my Du-yi sect's anger. Killing my Du-yi sect's elder and bringing along my sect's holy maiden. This matter will not be settled so easily. Wu Du finally turned around with a furious smile on his face after the sinister and cold laughter sounded. At the same time, his gaze swept over Luo Cheng's group. He looked at the large city below and snorted furiously. Immediately, he waved his sleeve, turned around and left. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared at the edge of one's sight. The anxious emotions in Luo Cheng's heart slowly relaxed after seeing Wu Du leave. Although Luo Xiong and the rest were present, the other party was after all an origin venerate expert. It was naturally unavoidable for Luo Cheng to feel nervous. Fortunately, he had managed to send this fellow away. Soon after, Xiao Yan rushed into the air and arrived beside Luo Cheng. He looked in the direction that Wu Du had left in, and cupped his hands together respectfully towards Luo Cheng's group while feeling a grave feeling in his heart. I have to thank all of you elders this time. Haha, it's a small matter. Fortunately, you did not appear earlier. Otherwise, this matter would not have been resolved so easily. Luo Cheng smiled faintly when he heard this. He gently waved his hand and said, Don't be happy too early. This matter is far from over. From the tone of Wu Du's last words, this matter is likely heading towards the worst outcome. Everyone should be mentally prepared. Luo Cheng's laughter had just sounded when First Elder Luo Xiong's solemn words were spat out. The hearts of everyone present, which had just sunk, were once again raised at this moment. Chapter 1328. Over the next few days, Heavenly Cloud Villa became much calmer. The disturbance caused by the Tai E starplate had yet to subside, but after the incident with Wu Du, many people in Heavenly Cloud Villa understood that a huge storm was coming. This caused many people to quieten down, and the atmosphere in the city also became somewhat oppressive. At some point, the news of Xiao Yan and the other outsiders entering the villa spread like wildfire. Only now did the people in Heavenly Cloud Villa know that Wu Du had not come to ask for people without reason. Immediately, some people began to think about this group of people. I say, our Heavenly Cloud Villa and the Du Yi sect originally minded our own business. Why do we need to go against the Du Yi sect for these few people? The Du Yi sect has the support of an Origin Venerate like Wu Du. Don't tell me there's an Origin Venerate expert among these few people? Hey, what Origin Venerate expert? The strongest among them is only a 2-star Origin Emperor. There are plenty of such experts in the central region. Compared to the Du Yi sect, they are like flies. Is there a need for the Villa Master to go against the Du Yi sect for these few people? Isn't it? Shut up. Be careful of your words. Outside the manor, a few young people were sitting in a circle, chatting casually. A middle-aged man who passed by suddenly scolded when he heard it. He immediately scared these few people to shut their mouths. After that, he glanced at these few young juniors faintly. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. The strongest among them was only an Origin transformation expert. Not only did they not use their time to cultivate, but they were also mocking and ridiculing an Origin Emperor. If it weren't for their youthful vigor, he would definitely have scolded them. Seeing that these few people had fled from his sight, the middle-aged man curled his lips. Immediately, he walked into the manor. After a short while, he saw the manor head of Tian Yun Villa, Luo Cheng, in a large hall. Villa Master, everything has been settled. Seeing Luo Cheng, the middle-aged man cupped his fists respectfully and said respectfully, "Yes, it's been hard on you. I'll have to trouble you to control them over the next few days and stop them from saying anything they shouldn't say. At this time, no one can be disloyal." Luo Cheng nodded and said softly. When the middle-aged man heard this, he immediately nodded respectfully. However, immediately after, he raised his head with a suspicious expression and looked at Luo Cheng. He hesitated for a moment before saying, after a moment of hesitation, he said, "Villa Master, could it be that the Great Star Plate is really because... I know that you all have your suspicions." To appease Du Yi sect. B. Luo Cheng's tone became dignified and domineering once again when he reached the end of his sentence. The middle-aged man's face stiffened when he heard that. He nodded heavily, bowed, and left. Under Luo Cheng's deliberate arrangement, all the negative news related to Xiao Yan's group within the Heavenly Cloud Villa was suppressed. At the same time, another piece of news that shocked everyone within the Heavenly Cloud Villa was once again spread. The reason why the Greater Star Plate was able to enter the Heavenly Cloud Saint weapon ranking was because of Xiao Yan's group. Many people's expressions changed when they heard that. No one believed that an outsider could possess such ability. However, with the silence of the upper echelons of Heavenly Cloud Villa, the number of people who had an opinion about this matter gradually decreased. In addition to Luo Cheng's suppression, Xiao Yan's group quickly gained the support of many people in the villa. Luo Cheng supported them in his heart, but he also had his doubts. After all, Xiao Yan was only an Origin Emperor. His cultivation was not considered strong in the middle region. Luo Cheng did not know if it was right to put the fate of the entire Heavenly Cloud Villa on him because of the Greater Star Plate. It had to be said that it was a huge gamble to use the entire Heavenly Cloud Villa as a wager for Xiao Yan. In Luo Ao's courtyard, Xiao Yan came according to the agreement to retrieve the heavy Xian Buster Sword and Luo Tian Cauldron. Both of them had been completely restored. This could be considered as settling one of the matters in Xiao Yan's heart. On the other side, Luo Cheng was sitting in a large hall with a frown. Beside him was First Elder Luo Xiong. In front of the two of them, an elder was reporting the news about the Du Yi sect that he had recently investigated. According to the information that he had found, the Du Yi sect had been consolidating the experts in the sect. It was not difficult to see that they were preparing for a tough battle. As for who their opponent was, it was needless to say. From the looks of it, Xiao Yan's group was still very attractive to the Du-Yi sect. Whether it was the fact that Xiao Yan had killed the upper echelons of the sect or the two woeful poison bodies, it was enough to make them go crazy. It seemed that the Heavenly Cloud Villa was not the only one in this gamble. Even the Du-Yi sect itself was involved in this gamble. First Elder, what do you think? After hesitating for a moment, Luo Cheng smiled and looked at Luo Xiong, who was beside him. There was a look of determination in his eyes. Haha, since Villa Master has already come to a conclusion, why do you need to ask me? If the Du-Yi sect really does not put our Heavenly Cloud Villa in their eyes, then we have to tell them that our Heavenly Cloud Villa is not afraid of them. If they want to fight, then let's fight. After Luo Xiong finished speaking, Luo Cheng smiled and stood up. His gaze fell on the elder who was standing in front of him and said, Elder Luo Zhen, do you understand? Hearing this, Luo Zhen quickly bowed and cupped his fist, saying, Understood. I will go and gather the experts in the villa and inform everyone to prepare for battle. When he said these words, Luo Zhen's old eyes also revealed a fiery look. The Heavenly Cloud Villa had been quiet for a long time. Now, they had to let the people of the Central Region understand that their Heavenly Cloud Villa was still one of the top factions in the Central Region. In the next few days, the Heavenly Cloud Villa still appeared to be calm. However, under this calmness, there was an intense undercurrent. Everyone knew that this was just the prelude to the arrival of the storm. Even though it was short, it also caused people to be terrified. Although the Du-Yi sect and the Heavenly Cloud Villa were thousands of miles apart, the two had already formed a tit-for-tat relationship. At the same time, this also attracted the attention of some people in the outside world. While these two factions were preparing for each other, outside the Du-Yi sect, two people unexpectedly came. Chapter 1329. While the Heavenly Cloud Villa and the Du-Yi sect were making their own preparations, Xiao Yan, who was in the Heavenly Cloud Villa, was not idle either. During this period of time, his cultivation had completely stabilized at the level of a 2-star origin emperor. The cultivation of Bai Hua and the others had also made progress. Ever since he had witnessed Wu Du's strength that day, Xiao Yan had gained a deeper understanding of the Du-Yi sect. As one of the 4 great factions and a powerful sect that possessed an origin venerate, it was not difficult to imagine how terrifying the Du-Yi sect was. Even though he had the help of the Heavenly Cloud Villa this time, if Xiao Yan did not make sufficient preparations, he would be completely defeated in this battle in the middle region. Xiao Yan turned his attention back to his 9 avatars while feeling a solemn feeling in his heart when he thought of this. His cultivation had temporarily stabilized and would not be able to make any progress in a short period of time. His Do skills and agility still needed time to practice, so it would also be difficult for him to make any progress. In comparison, the 9 rotation doppelgangers technique had much more room for improvement. With Xiao Yan's current wealth, it would not be difficult for him to accumulate the cultivation of his 9 doppelgangers in a short period of time. If he was lucky enough to break through to the Origin Emperor level, it would be a great help. Xiao Yan's body was seated cross-legged on the bed within the dormitory. Both of his eyes were tightly shut. Majestic spiritual strength surged out of his body and transformed into 9 incarnations. At this moment, there was a large pile of spirit stones in front of each of the incarnations. Waves of majestic energy swiftly flowed into the bodies of the incarnations as the chi methods within the bodies of the 9 incarnations swiftly circulated. The bodies of the 9 incarnations also became increasingly real. After several days of crazy absorption, more than half of the mountain of spirit stones in Xiao Yan's storage ring had been consumed. There was no lack of middle-grade spirit stones among them, which were treasured by Xiao Yan. However, he did not dare to be stingy in order to increase the cultivation of his 9 doppelgangers. Under the indiscriminate bombardment of spirit stones, the cultivation of his 9 doppelgangers finally broke through to the 9-star origin king level. However, at the same time, the speed at which his 9 doppelgangers absorbed Genesis Chi had greatly decreased. In fact, their demand for Genesis Chi had also increased. In the end, just as the spirit stones in Xiao Yan's storage ring were about to be completely exhausted, the absorption of Genesis Chi by the 9 doppelgangers finally stopped. Their cultivation stagnated at the peak of the Origin King level, unable to make any progress. The cultivation of his 9 doppelgangers had stagnated. This sudden change naturally caused Xiao Yan to be greatly alarmed. However, after some searching, Xiao Yan found that this was the result. Although the 9 Revolutions Doppelgangers art could create 9 doppelgangers that were comparable to one's cultivation, it was still a human class Do skill. It was already not easy for the doppelgangers to reach the Origin King level. The peak of the Origin King level was the limit of the 9 Revolutions doppelganger's art. This also meant that the strength of his 9 doppelgangers could no longer increase. Xiao Yan felt rather helpless in this regard. Who would have thought that such a problem would occur just as the Du-Yi sect was about to invade? As a result, Xiao Yan's overall strength would be affected to a certain extent. This was undoubtedly bad news. Phew! In front of the bed, Xiao Yan let out a long breath of turbid air that had been suppressed in his chest. His eyes rapidly flickered in thought. Since the strength of his 9 doppelgangers had been suppressed, the only trump cards he could hope for were those powerful Do skills. While Xiao Yan's group was waiting for the Du-Yi sect to arrive within the Tianyun villa, 3 human figures were standing in front of a cave that was surrounded by golden light deep within the endless empty space in the northern sky. Cuckoo, not bad. A 6-star origin sect. You are much stronger than I had expected. Looks like you have gained quite a lot from the Dragon Cave. The old man in a golden robe looked at the handsome blonde young man in front of him with a smile. The satisfaction in his eyes became stronger. This also caused the other person on the side to laugh continuously. In this regard, the blonde young man scratched his head at a loss. Then, he quickly recovered as if he had thought of something. His gaze returned to the old man in front of him and he hurriedly said, "Brother, I'm sorry. Tribe leader, you once promised this junior that if this junior's cultivation stepped into the Origin sect, you would allow me to leave the dragon tribe. Now. Hey, you brat. This old man has painstakingly nurtured you for so long. Why is it that you are actually thinking of that brat the moment you just came out of the dragon cave?" Before the young man's voice sounded, it was quickly interrupted by the old man's mocking laughter. The person he was referring to was naturally Xiao Yan. The golden-haired young man in front of him at this moment was Xiao Jin, who he had taken away from Xiao Yan's side back then. After so many years, Xiao Jin had also changed greatly. Not only had it transformed into a human form, but its cultivation had also stepped into the Source Zone class. If one were to really talk about it, this speed was much more frightening even when compared to Xiao Yan. Of course, this was naturally due to the various rare resources of the dragon tribe. At the same time, it was also inseparable from Xiao Jin's hard work. Xiao Jin could not help but smile in embarrassment when he heard the old man's mocking laughter. Soon after, he turned his expectant gaze towards the old man. The old man could not help but smile bitterly and shake his head when he saw Xiao Jin's pitiful appearance. He could only laugh and scold Xiao Jin for being an ingrate. He then said, "That brat is currently in the central region. If you want to go over, I will get Long Lin to accompany you." Xiao Jin's expression changed drastically when he heard this. This also caused the old man in front of him to involuntarily exchange glances with Long Lin. The latter helplessly shook his head. After which, he looked towards Xiao Jin and gently raised his head. "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Jin immediately followed behind Long Lin. The two of them flew towards a certain dark void one after another. Behind them, the old man looked at the backs of the two of them and couldn't help but chuckle and shake his head. Then, he slowly took a deep breath, frowned, and muttered to himself, "I wonder if my Xiao Jin is stronger than the dragon girl from the purple gold dragon tribe." The old man's turbid eyes flickered with some anticipation. After many days, the Du-Ai sect finally began to move again. The mighty group arrived outside the Heavenly Cloud Villa in a manner that covered the sky. At this moment, the villa chief, Luo Cheng, led the 7 heroes of the Luo clan and a group of elders to wait for the arrival of the Du-Ai sect. When the formation that covered the sky above the city was opened from the inside, a group that contained a powerful foundation also appeared in front of the eyes of the experts from the Du-Ai sect. This time around, Xiao Yan's group was surprisingly among them. Other than Lian Er, even the little fairy doctor was present. They knew that Luo Cheng's words the last time could not deceive Wu Du, otherwise the latter would not have come to attack with such great fanfare. Hence, he would definitely face the battle today head-on. Chapter 1330. In the Heavenly Cloud Villa, countless people were dumbfounded as they stared at the figures that filled the sky outside the city. Boundless and astonishing poisonous fog continuously surged out from the bodies of these people, rapidly enveloping the sky above the Heavenly Cloud Villa like dark clouds. The originally bright light in the city had also become somewhat dim at this moment. The golden runes carved on the city walls also emitted waves of golden light at this moment, as if they had predicted something, resisting the poisonous fog that was gradually spreading over the city. "Are all these people from the Du-Yi sect?" They're really generous. They're all here for Xiao Yan and the others? It's not just Xiao Yan and the others. My Heavenly Cloud Villa has always been at odds with the Du-Yi sect. Although Xiao Yan and the others are one side, this battle is also a suppression of my Heavenly Cloud Villa. There's no need to think about such useless things. The city below fell into an uproar as they stared at the black mass of people in the sky. Although there were still many people who blamed Xiao Yan and the others for this battle, there were naturally many who truly understood the reason. They weren't fools. They naturally knew how the Du-Yi sect did things. This battle didn't just concern the safety of Xiao Yan and the others. The poisonous mist that surged and spread outside the city was like a huge, pitch-black hand. However, the moment it came into contact with the city wall, it was instantly repelled by the formation on the wall. Streaks of golden light surged out from the formation and shot into the poisonous mist. Only when the mist was repelled 100 meters away did it gradually come to a stop. Luo Cheng, hand over the saintess of my sect and the few rascals who killed our elders. We still have room to turn this matter around. Otherwise, today will be the day of your Heavenly Cloud Villa's destruction. While everyone in the city was alarmed by the layers of poison mist in the sky, an elderly voice filled with a domineering aura rang out from the crowd outside the city like the chime of a bell amidst the vigorous Genesis chi. In the end, it clearly rang out in everyone's ears. Saintess? Saintess of the Du-Yi sect. Doesn't that mean the woeful poison body? To think that the saintess of the Du-Yi sect is in my Heavenly Cloud Villa. No wonder the Du-Yi sect has mobilized so many people. There were naturally quite a number of people in the city who were aware of the rumors about the Holy Lady of the Du-Yi sect. However, after hearing the old voice, they finally understood in their hearts. It was unexpected that the Holy Lady of the Du-Yi sect would actually appear in their Heavenly Cloud Villa. In that case, this matter was likely not small, unless Luo Cheng would really hand over these people. However, the reality was that Luo Cheng would not do so. A couple of purple-robed figures slowly stepped through the air and walked over after the old voice sounded. They immediately paused in the empty space a short distance from Luo Cheng's group. Their indifferent gazes swept over everyone on the other side. Finally, their gazes paused on the black-robed Xiao Yan beside Luo Cheng. The expression on their old faces also became gloomy. The three people leading the group were the Su Shuang trio who had chased after Xiao Yan's group. Beside them, besides a few powerful Du-Yi sect elders, there was also a figure wrapped in a black robe. Although his face couldn't be seen clearly, he gave Xiao Yan an inexplicable pressure. This caused the latter's expression to change slightly. Haha, Su Shuang, since you have brought so many people to my Heavenly Cloud Villa, your aim is already extremely clear. Why do you need to say such laughable words? There will be a fight between us sooner or later. Since your Du-Yi sect can't wait any longer, my Heavenly Cloud Villa will accompany you. If you want the people, come and get them yourself. Luo Cheng merely laughed disdainfully in the face of Su Shuang's threatening words. His body suddenly shook after his words sounded. A surging powerful aura also surged out from within his body, forming an invisible energy wave that swept towards Su Shuang's group. At the same time that the aura within Luo Cheng's body swept outwards, Su Shuang's group also took half a step forward. Waves after waves of powerful auras gushed out from their bodies in all directions, easily blocking the invisible wave that was heading towards them. Since Villa Master Luo has said so, we won't hold back today. Attack and take them down. With a low cry, the expression on Su Shuang's old face instantly became gloomy. He waved his shriveled hand violently and his body shot forward. At the same time, the Du-Yi sect elders behind him also responded in unison. Luo Cheng laughed mockingly. He stomped his foot heavily in the air and a circle of golden light immediately spread under his feet. It quickly covered his body and formed a layer of formation. Get into formation and face the enemy. With an order, Luo Cheng immediately led the group of experts from Heavenly Cloud Villa and charged forward. A dazzling golden light burst out from their bodies. At the same time, they quickly formed a seal with their hands. Mysterious and strange runes quickly swept out and formed various formations around them. They violently collided with Su Shuang's group. A great battle was about to begin. Behind them, the 7 heroes of the Luo clan stood upright. They didn't care about the battle circle where Gu Luo Cheng and the others were. Their opponent was Wu Du. Hee, the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, I've only heard of your names in the past, but I've never had the chance to fight with you. Today, the opportunity has finally come. However, Today is destined to be the day of your death. As the battle between the two sides began, all of the experts above the Origin Emperor level in the sky clashed together. Only at this moment did the empty space in front of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan suddenly distort slowly, and Wu Du's figure appeared. The corner of Wu Du's mouth was lifted into a cold smile as his gaze swept over the 7 heroes of the Luo clan. He would definitely win today's battle. Not only would he bring Xiao Yan's group back, but the Heavenly Cloud Villa would also suffer a calamity today. Sect Master Wu is right. The 7 of us haven't fought against an Source Venerate powerhouse for many years. Today, let us see how strong the so-called sect master of the Du-Yi sect is. Luo Xiong, who was the leader of the 7, smiled coldly. The 7 of them tacitly took half a step forward. Powerful auras immediately swept out from their bodies. At the same time, a fierce golden light condensed on the surface of the 7 people's bodies. They relied on each other and merged into one, causing the aura emitted from the 7 of them to become even more tyrannical. It was close to that of an Origin Venerable. Humph, the so-called 7 heroes of the Luo clan don't differentiate between each other. Although your attainments in array techniques are quite high, it's still difficult for the 7 of you to contend against me. Take out the Greater One Star Disc. I know that the reason why the 7 heroes of the Luo clan are so famous is because of the Greater One Star Disc. Unfortunately, it's a... The expression on Wu Du's face suddenly stiffened while he was coldly smiling as he stared at the Greater One Star plate that Luo Xiong had taken out from his storage ring. He looked at the smooth and perfect white jade formation plate in Luo Xiong's hand. The words that were about to reach his mouth instantly became sluggish. The originally disdainful expression in his eyes gradually turned into shock and disbelief. Haha, sorry to disappoint you. The Greater One Star Disc has been restored. The current Greater One Star Disc is a true Grade 9 array disc. At the same time, a dazzling golden light swept out from Luo Xiong's palm in an earth-shattering manner. Chapter 1331. When the golden light in Luo Xiong's palm swept out, numerous seemingly solid energy light pillars shot out from the array disc. Golden light flickered, forming numerous mysterious runes in the sky above the Heavenly Cloud Villa. Numerous huge golden light clusters gathered in the void, intertwining with each other until they enveloped the entire Heavenly Cloud Villa. Only then did they gradually stop. In the end, a large sky-covering array was finally formed. A vast aura and pressure surged out from the array. The power of this pressure was not any weaker than Wu Du's. Is this the power of a Grade 9 array disc? It's truly terrifying. Xiao Yan stood within the formation. He sensed the frightening aura and pressure that lingered around him. The expression on his face involuntarily changed once again. It was indeed worthy of being a rank 9 formation plate. This aura was really frightening. With the cultivation of Luo Xiong's group as a source zone, they were actually able to agglomerate a frightening aura that was comparable to an Yuan-Zun expert. It was difficult to imagine just how great the strength that the Great Star Plate would display would be if an Yuan-Zun were to agglomerate and control it. Humph, it's already been repaired. Wu Du's expression could not help but turn grave when he saw the terrifying array that enveloped the entire Heavenly Cloud Villa. Putting aside the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, he had naturally heard of the Greater Star Plate's reputation. If a Grade 9 array disc was to release its true power, it would be a terrifying existence that could contend against an Origin Saint expert. Although the person controlling it was only at the Origin Ancestor level, the power of this array could not be underestimated. The reason why an array disc was so terrifying was firstly because of the person controlling it. Secondly, it was because the array disc itself contained powerful energy. Once this energy was released, even an Origin Venerate expert would have to temporarily avoid it. Furthermore, the array disc in front of Wu Du was a Grade 9 array disc. Wu Du, let's see whether you, a Source Venerate, are more powerful, or whether the Luo Shi clan's Guardian array is stronger. The cry from Luo Xiong's mouth had just sounded when the 7 figures in the sky swiftly spread apart. Each of them stood at a different part of the formation and guarded it. As the Genesis Chi and spiritual strength were continuously poured in, the aura of the formation became increasingly terrifying. However, Xiao Yan was surprised to see Wu Du's expression gradually recover in the face of such a powerful response from the 7 heroes of the Luo clan. The corner of his mouth was even lifted into a cold smile. This caused an uneasy feeling to involuntarily surge into Xiao Yan's heart. When the power within the array reached a certain critical point, Wu Du let out a mocking chuckle. His indifferent gaze slowly swept across the 7 people one by one. In the end, he glanced at Xiao Yan and the others before he slowly opened his mouth and said, Luo Xiong, the greater star plate has been restored. Luo Xiong, I am really surprised that the Tai E star plate can be repaired. However, I have already said that if we don't fight today, it will be the end of Heavenly Cloud Villa. This has never changed. After the dark and cold words from Wu Du's mouth sounded, he suddenly clapped his hands. The rhythmic clapping reverberated across the sky. The empty space beside his body suddenly became distorted. Soon after, a black-robed gray-haired, old man appeared in the empty space. The expressions of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan in the formation changed drastically the moment this old man appeared. Gui Luo! The moment the exclamation sounded, the majestic aura within the formation involuntarily surged. Countless people in the city below raised their heads to look at the human figures that had appeared once again in the sky. Their expressions were slightly startled, but soon after they heard the exclamations from the mouths of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, the expressions on their faces turned into shock. Gui Luo! Gui Luo, is he the deputy sect master of the Ghost Temple sect, Gui Luo? Why has he also come? This guy's cultivation has already stepped into the Origin Venerate level a few years ago. He is a famous Origin Venerate expert in the central region. Why has he been dragged into the matter between my Heavenly Cloud Villa and the Du-E sect today? The situation is not good. If Gui Luo and the Du-E sect join hands, then the Du-E sect will have 2 Origin Venerates on their side. Won't my Heavenly Cloud Villa be in danger? Gui Luo's appearance immediately caused an uproar in the city below. The emotions of many people could not help but become tense, including the 7 heroes of the Luo clan, Luo Cheng and the rest. They were also unable to imagine that the Ghost Temple sect would actually participate in the dispute between the 2 parties. At this moment, Xiao Yan's originally solemn expression had become much gloomier after hearing the discussions of everyone in the city below. Since he was a member of the Ghost Slaughter Gate, he naturally understood why this Gui Luo would appear in this place. Gui Luo, the Ghost Temple sect has never interfered in the dispute between my Heavenly Cloud Villa and the Du-E sect. I never imagined that you would actually take action on behalf of the Du-E sect today. Luo Xiong's expression was grave. Who would have thought that the Ghost Temple sect would actually intervene in such a great battle? Since this was the case, Heavenly Cloud Villa's situation was not good. TSK. First Elder has misunderstood. My Ghost Temple sect will not interfere in the matter between your 2 clans. I have only come this time for Xiao Yan. He is the person that our sect master has named to capture. Since he has come to the central region and I am aware of it, I naturally have the obligation to bring him back. If anyone tries to stop me, I will have no choice but to offend them. Once these words were spoken, the expressions of the Luo clan members, whether they were in the city below or in the sky, were immediately filled with shock. Many people's gazes involuntarily fell on Xiao Yan. It was hard to imagine that a mere Origin Emperor would actually cause the Vice-Sect Master of the Ghost Temple sect to personally take action to capture him. This was simply too sensational. At this moment, the hearts of the Luo clan members could not help but waver once again. If there was only one Source Venerate expert present, Wu Du, then Heavenly Cloud Villa would naturally not have the slightest fear. However, Gui Luo's appearance had instantly tipped the situation in favor of the Du-E sect. At this moment, if Heavenly Cloud Villa still stepped forward to protect Xiao Yan and his group, they had no doubt that Gui Luo would definitely join forces with Wu Du to deal with Heavenly Cloud Villa. At that time, even with the protection of the Greater One Star Plate, it would still be difficult for them to defeat 2 Source Venerates. The outcome was obvious. To let go or not was another choice that Heavenly Cloud Villa had to make. At this moment, Xiao Yan's heart was also filled with dissatisfaction as he watched the scene on the battleground. He knew that getting the Heavenly Cloud Villa to take the risk and use the entire clan's strength to deal with the Du-E sect was already extremely benevolent. It was really difficult to force them to make a choice now. At this moment, it was time for him to step forward. Phew! Xiao Yan let out a deep breath. He smiled bitterly as he glanced at the little fairy doctor and the others by his side. When he saw the bitter expression that was revealed on their faces, he nodded gently. He immediately turned to Luo Xiong's group, bowed, and said, "Many thanks for your care over the past few days. Today's matter originated from this junior, and I should be the one to end it. Therefore..." Xiao Yan's body suddenly turned before his voice sounded. He looked at Gui Luo, who was a short distance away. Murderous intent filled his eyes as the Genesis chi within his body suddenly surged out at this moment. Let me face him. Chapter 1332. Boundless Genesis chi swarmed out of Xiao Yan's body as a stern cry was emitted from his mouth. An astonishing aura soared into the sky, appearing rather extraordinary. He, your aura is not bad, but your strength is too weak. You're ultimately just an origin emperor. You overestimate yourself if you want to show off in front of this sovereign. Gue Luo coldly chuckled when he saw Xiao Yan's reaction. The light in his sinister old eyes grew even colder. What's the big deal about bullying a junior? Why don't you let this old man face you instead? However, just as Gue Luo was coldly laughing, an unhurried old voice sounded from an unknown place and slowly resounded beside everyone's ears. At the same time, the expression on Gue Luo's old face immediately became gloomy. Huazhu, you're like a ghost that won't go away. I can't believe you followed us. Gue Luo's hoarse and deep voice slowly came out from his mouth. When his voice fell, the expressions of everyone who heard these words could not help but change. It was hard to imagine that the battle between Heavenly Cloud Villa and Du Yi sect would actually attract such an expert. It could be said that this was the first time in 100 years that something like this had happened. Immediately after, the space beside Xiao Yan suddenly began to distort. As a blazing aura spread, the figure of an old man in white robes appeared in the sky. The moment the old man appeared, the heavenly fire in Xiao Yan's body began to tremble uncontrollably. Xiao Yan's pitch-black eyes were completely fixed on the old man beside him. The strange state of the heavenly fire allowed him to instantly discover the old man's identity. There were only two possibilities for the heavenly fire in his body to go berserk. Either the old man had refined a heavenly fire like him, or he was the spirit of a heavenly fire. The heavenly fire in the world had long turned into a spirit. Besides him, it was impossible for anyone else to refine a heavenly fire. In other words, the old man before him. Haha, little friend, there's no need to be surprised. The fate between you and me has long been determined. Today we've met, and it's also reasonable. If there's anything else, we'll talk about it later. As for now, let's focus on this group of people first. Huazhu merely smiled faintly when he saw the shocked expression that was revealed on Xiao Yan's face. He immediately turned his gaze and looked at the 7 heroes of the Luo clan behind him, who were in the formation. He smiled and nodded as he said, I've long heard of the fame of the Luo clan's 7 heroes. You are indeed extraordinary. Leave Gue Luo to me. As for Wu Du, I'll have to trouble you guys. Huazhu cupped his hands to the few of them in a courteous manner as he spoke. Luo Xiong and the others hurriedly returned the greeting when they saw this. Huazhu's appearance at such a moment had already exceeded their expectations. Moreover, from the way he treated Xiao Yan, it seemed that he had a good impression of him. This involuntarily caused them to feel some doubt in their hearts. Just when had Xiao Yan become acquainted with such an expert? When Huazhu appeared, there was a commotion in the city below. Uproar after uproar sounded one after another. Huazhu is the first elder of the Celestial Cloud sect? Even he has come today. From the looks of it, he should be here for Gue Luo. The Celestial Cloud sect and the Ghost Temple sect have always been at loggerheads. First Elder Huazhu has quite a bit of prestige in the sect and is very strong. It's said that Elder Huazhu once fought with the sect master of the Ghost Temple sect. Although the outcome of the battle was not decided, he is not someone that the vice sect master, Gue Luo, can compare to. With him taking action today, it seems that Gue Luo will be at his wit's end. When everyone saw Huazhu appear, their tensed hearts relaxed. If they could obtain Huazhu's help, the Heavenly Cloud Manor would have 2 source venerables. This way, the situation would be equal again and there would naturally be nothing to worry about. Huazhu! You were the one who stirred up the situation last time, causing this brat to be at death's door until now. If you dare to intervene again today, do you really want to shed all pretense of cordiality with my Ghost Temple sect? When he saw Huazhu's appearance, the fury in Gue Luo's heart grew even denser. On the other hand, Xiao Yan immediately recalled the matter that had occurred in the extreme south back then. Although he did not know about it at that time, he knew that 2 mysterious experts had taken action because of him. Now that he heard Gue Luo's words, he finally understood that the 2 mysterious experts who had intervened back then were Gue Luo and Huazhu. This thought flew in his heart. Connecting it to the fallen heart flame that had been extracted from his body, It was not difficult for Xiao Yan to guess that Elder Huazhu's actual body was undoubtedly the fallen heart flame. Cuckoo, brat. Now is not the time to be distracted. Although the old me can help you delay Gui Luo, you will have to deal with the remaining people by yourself. Huazhu smiled slightly and reminded Xiao Yan as he glanced at the somewhat absent-minded Xiao Yan. Immediately, his body shook and he left behind an afterimage on the spot. His actual body had already appeared in the empty space in front of Gui Luo. Gui Luo, let's settle this between the both of us today. The cry had just sounded when the two human figures collided. On the other side, Luo Cheng and the group of elders from the Heavenly Cloud Villa had once again collided with the experts from the Du Yi sect. At the same time, the gazes of the 7 heroes of the Luo clan also landed on Wu Du on the opposite side. The expression in their eyes became increasingly cold. While Xiao Yan's gaze was surveying the area, a human figure wrapped in a black robe suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yan. The human figure slowly raised his head, revealing a pair of scarlet eyes that were hidden behind a mask under the black robe. Xiao Yan was initially startled when he saw those eyes. Immediately, he curled his mouth and laughed coldly. So it is Hall Chief Xiao. Why have you come today? Have you come to die? Although Xiao Yan had merely glanced at him, his strange eyes allowed him to recognize the person in front of him at a glance. He was surprisingly that Hall Chief Xiao, who had been rescued by Gui Luo after the battle in the extreme south back then. It was unexpected that this fellow was actually still alive and standing in this place. TSK, sharp-tongued brat. The reason why I failed the last time was due to this Hall Chief's carelessness. This time around, however, this Hall Chief will personally deal with you. I want to see just how you will escape from my palm. Hall Chief Xiao smiled faintly. His feet slowly took a step forward. Waves of strange black fog scattered from under the black robe while a powerful aura also spread out from within his body. 4-star origin sect? Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows and a surprised expression was revealed on his face. He did not expect that this fellow would actually be lucky enough to make a breakthrough in his cultivation after the previous battle. However, even if this was the case, he was still not within Xiao Yan's range of threat. Today, this Hall Chief will avenge my previous humiliation. Chapter 1333. The expression on Xiao Yan's face involuntarily became a little strange when he heard Hall Chief Xiao's words. Although he did not know why Tang Long had died, the current Xiao Yan understood one thing. After his cultivation had broken through to the level of a 2-star origin emperor, if he were to unleash the angry Buddha lotus flame with all his strength, it was likely that a 4-star origin sect would not be able to withstand it. Hence, even though Hall Chief Xiao had already broken through, it did not pose much of a pressure to him. Since Hall Chief Xiao is so confident, let us decide who is stronger between us today. Xiao Yan curled his mouth and smiled. He rotated his hand and his 5 fingers clenched. An enormous dark black ruler also appeared in his palm. A thought passed through his mind and a fierce flame covered the ruler with a bang sound. The temperature of the place suddenly rose the moment the flame rose. The originally cool and comfortable air instantly became much hotter. Even the churning poison clouds in the distant sky involuntarily rolled back a little. The might of a heavenly flame was obvious. Hall Chief Xiao coldly snorted when he saw this. His large black robe suddenly swayed and a dark black fog swiftly spread. A wave of crashing metallic sounds was emitted from the black fog. Immediately, a couple of chains with strange black fog around them shot out from the black fog like poisonous snakes. They lingered around Hall Chief Xiao's body and stared at Xiao Yan like living creatures. TSK, this time around, I will definitely not allow you to escape. Hall Chief Xiao laughed in a dark and cold manner. The dark black chains lingering around his body suddenly trembled as the black fog surged. They immediately transformed into numerous dark black lightning bolts that shot towards Xiao Yan in a straight line. At the same time, Xiao Yan held the heavy ruler in his hand. His dark black eyes did not allow any emotion to fluctuate. His eyes were indifferent as he stared at the chains that were shooting over. His feet gently took a step to the side. Soon after, a black lightning bolt directly penetrated through the empty space beside him. Clang! The enormous ruler in Xiao Yan's hand was suddenly lifted at the same time. The broad blade of the ruler directly knocked against the lower end of the chains, emitting a clear clang sound. Sparks shot out and the strange black fog lingering over the chains swiftly melted like snow. The chains were also forced back. Xiao Yan did not pause after sending a chain flying. He flipped his wrist and the enormous ruler in his hand swiftly danced. With just a couple of simple moves, he had forced back those chains that had shot over. The expression in Hall Chief Zhao's scarlet eyes involuntarily solidified. Immediately, it turned into a cold laugh. Both of his hands were swiftly lifted. His 10 fingers were linked together as a seal was swiftly formed. At the same time, over 10 black-colored chains shot out from the black fog that lingered around him. They entwined with a couple of chains and transformed into an enormous metal net that covered Xiao Yan from all directions. Soul-binding net. With a soft sound, the enormous chain iron net had already covered Xiao Yan's body. It was just like a cage that trapped him within it. At the same time, waves of dense black fog surged out from each chain. They transformed into a large bloody mouth that pounced at Xiao Yan's body. 6-joint body-flowing ruler. Xiao Yan's expression turned cold as he swept a glance at the pitch-black chains that surrounded him. At the same time, he let out a low cry and waved the heavy Xian ruler in his hand once again. Waves of fire covered Xiao Yan's body as the ruler swiftly flew. When the chain cage approached, the fire that rushed out from the ruler's blade would whiz and collide with the chains. The black fog would scatter, and the chains would be shaken back a little. This continued until the heavy Xian ruler and the chains completely collided. The giant ruler spun as the fire exploded. Only when the fire exploded at the point of collision with the chains did Xiao Yan take advantage of the momentum to furiously hack down with the giant ruler in his hand. He cut the chains apart and escaped from the cage. Huff! Xiao Yan gently exhaled. He looked at Hall Chief Xiao with some ridicule and grinned. From the looks of it, your strength as a 4-star source ancestor is only as a... You're courting death. Xiao Yan's words had just sounded when Hall Chief Zhao's expression immediately became gloomy. A dense sound was emitted as over a dozen dark black chains once again rushed out. They split into various directions and broke through the empty air with lightning-like speed as they targeted the fatal spots around Xiao Yan's body. A cold smile flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked at the dozen-plus chains that were once again shot over. A thought passed through his heart and the great Wei's strength swiftly gathered in the empty space in front of him. At the same time, the spiritual strength between his brows suddenly swept out at this moment. The chains cut through space, leaving behind only Xiao Yan's afterimage. In the nearby space, Xiao Yan's figure slowly solidified. The moment he opened his eyes, the pitch-black chains shot towards him. He hurriedly circulated the Genesis Chi in his body, narrowly dodging the chains one by one. As he flipped his body, flames rapidly gathered in his hands, transforming into a giant flaming ruler that collided with the chains once again. At the same time, on the city walls below, a black-robed figure slowly stepped out from the great Dao tent. He watched the chase in the sky with interest, a mocking smile on his face. That person was undoubtedly Xiao Yan. As for the Xiao Yan in the sky, whose cultivation was the same as his, he was the product of the 9 clones fusing into one. Although the cultivation of the 9 avatars ultimately stagnated at the peak of the Origin King class, it was fortunate that the cultivation of the avatars was comparable to Xiao Yan's current actual body after they merged into one. Of course, the difference was that their fighting strength was only a little weaker. However, they were still able to reach the stage where they could pass off as genuine. This caused an expert of Hall Chief Zhao's level to be unable to distinguish the real from the fake. However, while Xiao Yan was staring at the battle between the clones and Hall Chief Zhao in the sky, a black-robed figure was secretly staring at him in a certain forest shrouded in poisonous fog outside the city. The killing intent in his heart hadn't diminished in the slightest. It was Su Zhen. Being a disciple of the sect, he did not participate in today's battle. One of the reasons was to make it convenient for him to quietly act. The other reason was to prevent the upper echelons of the Du Yi sect from easily recognizing him. At this moment, Xiao Yan might have avoided Hall Chief Zhao's sight, but Su Zhen, who had been observing the situation of the battle from the sidelines, had noticed Xiao Yan's location at a glance. His heart involuntarily felt shocked when he saw that Xiao Yan actually possessed an incarnation with such a frightening cultivation. Fortunately, such a tactic would not be used on him. Now, the only thing he lacked was an opportunity. An opportunity to kill Xiao Yan by surprise. Chapter 1334. Great Tao of Ghosts. 100 Ghosts Devour the Soul. Hall Chief Zhao's tone was extremely dark and cold as he stood in the empty space. Clusters of strange black fog swiftly gathered around him, forming a couple of strange distorted black holes that covered Xiao Yan's body. However, one could hear the sound of chains rubbing against each other from within the black holes. Following a wave of dark and stern hissing sounds, a countless number of illusionary black ghosts suddenly rushed out from within the black holes. They were holding black chains in their hands. They carried an extremely dark and cold aura as they tore through the empty space and shot toward Xiao Yan at this moment. In response, Xiao Yan, who was surrounded, scrunched his brows in a frown. After several battles, the light on the giant flaming ruler in his hand had dimmed significantly, and there wasn't much Genesis Chi left in his body. Even if Hall Master Xiao went all out, it would be difficult for Xiao Yan to withstand his attack. Although this was the case, a glint involuntarily flashed across Xiao Yan's dark black eyes. The corner of his mouth slowly lifted as he watched the countless ghost figures swiftly rushing over from around him, and the increasingly flourishing blood-colored glow in Hall Master Zhao's eyes. In the next moment, he crazily maneuvered the remaining Genesis Chi in his body in front of Hall Master Zhao's disbelieving eyes. His entire body swiftly swelled uncontrollably. Waves of berserk energy spilled out from all parts of his body, and cracks rapidly spread across his body. At the same time, Hall Master Zhao's expression changed drastically under the mask. He wants to self-destruct? Hall Master Xiao didn't dare to imagine that someone of Xiao Yan's character would be forced to such an extent. Based on what Ghost Hall knew, Xiao Yan had never done such a crazy thing in the past, no matter what kind of desperate situation he was in. Boom! This time around, before Hall Chief Xiao could discern the truth, an earth-shaking explosion resounded over the sky. A powerful energy storm swept over and destroyed Hall Chief Xiao's Do technique. The sky where the two of them were located was also shattered by this powerful energy storm. A countless number of ghostly figures were swept away in an instant. The Do technique was destroyed. At the same time that the latter was implicated, the energy storm that quickly followed once again sent his body flying. Under the attack of such a frightening energy, even with Hall Chief Zhao's cultivation, receiving this attack in his current condition was sufficient to cause him to pay a terrible price, even if he was not seriously injured. A countless number of gazes in the city looked at the frightening energy that swept apart in the sky. Their eyes were filled with shock. Their hearts had great disbelief that Xiao Yan would use the method of self-destructing to deal with Hall Master Zhao's attack. At this moment, it was likely that only the Little Fairy Doctors group and Su Zhan, who was currently outside the city, clearly understood everything. On the other side, everyone in the battleground where Luo Cheng's group was located had also turned their gazes over because of this frightening explosion. Luo Cheng's group also felt an intense churning in their hearts when they saw the scene in front of them. They also did not dare to believe the scene in front of them. Only when they saw the calm expressions of the Little Fairy Doctors group did they appear to have understood something. After which, their gazes once again landed on Su Shuang's group in front of them. At this moment, the shocking energy storm in the sky slowly scattered. Hall Master Zhao's figure finally appeared in front of everyone once again. At this moment, Hall Master Zhao's black robe was completely shattered. Over half of the black fog that lingered over his body had also scattered, revealing a skinny firewood-like body. His dark black skin was covered with fresh blood. Numerous strange black symbols covered his entire body, emitting waves of strange light. It was also because of the existence of these symbols that he did not end up seriously injured from the explosion earlier. Cough, 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 cough. After a series of violent coughs, the corners of Hall Master Zhao's mouth curled into a cold smile under his mask. Xiao Yan had ultimately been defeated by him. Although Xiao Yan had died in the end, as long as he was not the one who killed Xiao Yan, the higher-ups would naturally not blame him. As for now, Hall Master Xiao sneered as he slowly lifted his gaze from the bottom to the top. After his gaze swept past a black figure, it immediately landed on the Little Fairy Doctor's group. He was about to mobilize the remaining Genesis Chi in his body when the expression in his eyes suddenly changed. He hurriedly withdrew his gaze and saw an afterimage slowly dissipating on the walls of the Heavenly Cloud Villa. From the appearance of the afterimage, there was no doubt that it was Xiao Yan. That is, Xiao Yan. Seeing this scene, Palace Master Zhao's eyes suddenly narrowed. The moment shock rose in his heart. In the next second, a sharp sound of wind breaking suddenly resounded in the void in front of him. Palace Master Xiao could not care about his surroundings. While his emotions were tense, he stepped on the void and hurriedly retreated. Just as he was retreating, a strange figure appeared where he was just a moment ago. A fist wrapped in purple flames fiercely slammed into the void. As the fist fell, The invisible void immediately burst and collapsed. How was it? Did you have fun just now? A cold smile appeared on Xiao Yan's face when his fist missed. His figure trembled and disappeared again. When Hall Chief Xiao raised his head, he saw that Xiao Yan's figure had once again disappeared. A chill suddenly rose within his heart. He was really careless. The person who had exploded under the encirclement of the many ghost figures earlier was indeed not Xiao Yan. However, upon seeing Xiao Yan's frightening speed, it appeared that his overall strength had not been reduced by much. This caused Hall Chief Xiao to feel even more terrified. The two of them had clearly fought for hundreds of rounds. Why was it that Xiao Yan's fighting strength was still so powerful? Haha, are you curious? Then let my fist tell you. Hall Master Zhao's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly stomped his feet in the air. His retreating figure came to an abrupt halt, and he hurriedly turned around with a horrified look on his face. He quickly raised his hands and gathered the Genesis Chi in his body in his palms. Then, a large cloud of black mist gushed out amidst the Genesis Chi and violently exploded. The ferocious shockwave formed by the explosion had yet to completely scatter when it was blocked by an invisible force. Behind it, there appeared to be an invisible wall. The next moment, a fist that was burning with a purple-colored flame was violently thrown out. It passed through the aftershock of the explosion in a powerful and overbearing manner, and heavily smashed into the chest of Hall Chief Xiao. Boom! Hall Master Xiao released a hoarse scream from his throat, and his body was sent flying uncontrollably. Compared to a few months ago, you don't have the qualifications to be my opponent now. A low cry was emitted from Xiao Yan's throat. His feet suddenly stomped on the empty air as he quickly followed. His right fist was suddenly raised as his eyes stared intently at Hall Chief Xiao, who was in close proximity. The cold killing intent in his eyes was not hidden at all as it was revealed. At the same time, outside of the villa, Su Zhan had quietly adjusted the Genesis Chi within his body. His body quietly climbed onto the city wall. While everyone's attention was focused on Xiao Yan, the remaining poison within his body helped to cover his aura. Su Zhan swiftly gathered energy in his palm. A dark black curtain was quietly formed in the empty space in front of him. Chapter 1335. In the sky above the heavenly cloud villa, Xiao Yan was less than a meter away from Hall Master Xiao. His fist, which was burning with purple flames, fiercely streaked across the air. The whooshing sound of rushing wind resounded incessantly, and circle after circle of invisible ripples appeared in the air. Countless gazes gathered on Xiao Yan and Hall Master Xiao. Everyone held their breaths as they watched the distance between them shorten. Hall Master Zhao's heart was filled with fear. He didn't have time to mobilize the remaining Genesis Chi in his body, and his entire body was out of control because of Xiao Yan's punch. He could only helplessly watch as Xiao Yan's fist rapidly grew larger in his eyes. Fear rapidly rose from the bottom of his heart. No, 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 you can't kill me. I'm the Hall Master of Ghost Hall, a deacon of the Ghost Dune sect. If you kill me, the Ghost Dune sect will never let you establish yourself in the central region. A hoarse and unclear roar was hurriedly shouted from his throat. The hot flame had already caused the skin all over his body to feel an intense piercing pain. However, Xiao Yan did not care about it. His face carried ridicule as he laughed coldly and said in a cold voice, if I don't kill you, will you let me go? The strength that Xiao Yan's fist carried once again soared at the same time as the cold laughter sounded. Once this punch landed, Hall Chief Xiao would definitely die. However, it was also at this moment that a dark black tent swiftly formed in the empty space not far behind Xiao Yan. At the same time, the little fairy doctor was the first to notice the unusual situation behind Xiao Yan. The expression in her pretty eyes immediately solidified. The next moment, a human figure rushed out of the tent. The little fairy doctor's lovely body also rushed forward with lightning-like speed. Be careful, Xiao Yan. A worried cry suddenly rang out. Only then did everyone notice the black-robed figure that had suddenly appeared behind Xiao Yan. However, given Xiao Yan's current condition, it was impossible for him to respond in time. Even if Bai Hua and the others acted, it was already a step too late. Only the little fairy doctor had already charged forward the moment the black-robed figure appeared. If she was lucky, she might be able to stop the black-robed figure before he attacked Xiao Yan. However, with the fairy doctor's cultivation, it was clearly impossible for her to stop the Origin Emperor Su Zhan. Countless people's hearts instantly tensed up. Bai Hua and Luo Jin's figures shot forward. Even if they used their fastest speed, they were still unable to deal with the situation before them. In the blink of an eye, the black-robed figure had already appeared behind Xiao Yan. At the same time that Xiao Yan's fist smashed towards Hall Master Xiao, a white palm also violently slammed down on Xiao Yan's back. In order to kill Xiao Yan, Su Zhen had poured all of his strength into this palm. He was determined to kill Xiao Yan in one blow. The full power of a 6-star origin emperor's attack could be imagined. The white palm streaked through the air, and the powerful force turned the surrounding space into a vacuum. A concave arc was formed in front of the palm, and sonic booms continuously rang out. In the city below, countless people tensed up as they watched the scene in the sky. At the same time that the black-robed figure's palm violently slammed down, the distance between the white-robed figure and the two rapidly closed. Xiao Yan's emotions changed drastically when he saw the little fairy doctor charging forward without any regard for her own safety from the corner of his eye. The expression on his face also became completely gloomy at this moment. He used all of his strength to pull back his rapidly descending fist. Although he wanted to stop it, everything had already reached a point of no return. Even if Xiao Yan used all of his strength, his charging figure was destined to not be able to be stopped in time. In the next moment, Xiao Yan forcefully pulled back his fist that was about to land on Hall Master Zhao's chest. He stomped his feet violently in the air, and the space beneath his feet instantly shattered. His charging figure came to an abrupt halt. The black-robed figure's palm was only a moment away from Xiao Yan's back. However, it was also in this short moment that a white figure suddenly interposed between the two of them. She used her own body to block the black-robed figure's full power attack for Xiao Yan. Bang! Accompanied by a muffled explosion, the black-robed figure's full power attack was completely blocked by the little fairy doctor. A series of muffled explosions of flesh and blood continuously sounded from within his body. Almost at the same time, two stern cries that contained extreme anger and unwillingness suddenly resounded through the sky. No! Xiao Yan and Su Zhen cried out sternly in unison. The former did not expect that the fairy doctor would actually risk her life to block the palm of this black-robed person for him. Su Zhen also did not expect that his palm, which he had used all of his strength, would actually be blocked by the fairy doctor who had suddenly charged out. In this way, would his trip not be in vain? Damned woman! If it were not for you, my Su family would be able to take revenge today. Under the cover of the black robe, Su Zhen's face was filled with unwillingness. However, after using all of his strength to unleash this palm attack, the current him had also descended into a weakened state. If it were not for the remaining poison in his body, it was likely that he would have already been unable to endure. Even though this was the case, the hatred in Su Zhen's heart grew even denser as he looked at Xiao Yan, who was still alive and standing in front of him. Teacher, since things have already developed to this extent, why don't you just take action and kill Xiao Yan to take revenge for my Su family? Su Zhen did his best to squeeze out the remaining strength within the various chi paths, flesh and blood in his body as he pleaded for the remaining poison in his body. At this moment, only by relying on the latter's strength would he be able to kill Xiao Yan. No! Today, you launched a sneak attack on Xiao Yan in front of so many people. This has already attracted the attention of quite a number of people. If it were not for this old man concealing your aura, it is likely that those few old fellows from the Du Yi sect would have recognized you. If this old man were to take action now, forget about the fact that Xiao Yan has already regained his senses. Even if we were to really kill him, do you think that fellow Wu Du would be a pushover? Once he recognizes us, our lives will be in danger. But Xiao Yan. No buts. If we fail this time, we will find another opportunity in the future. We must not send both of us to our deaths because of this. Let's go. Yu Du let out a low cry. Immediately, he controlled Su Zhen's body. Even though the latter was unwilling, he still uncontrollably flew out of the distant battleground. However, just as he turned around, he was blocked from 3 directions by Bai Hua and the rest, who had flown over from behind. At this moment, Xiao Yan's face was dull as he hugged the pale-faced little fairy doctor in his embrace. He sensed the life swiftly dissipating from the latter's body. His originally calm, dark black eyes had turned blood-red at this moment. Even his entire body was trembling uncontrollably. His heart was filled with terror and at the same time, it was also filled with a crazy killing intent.